you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead.
And I'm Tiffany, co-founder of High Season Co. and a liquid enthusiast.
And welcome to episode 10 of Business of Beer here on BAOS. Tiffany.
Hello.
Hello. We did this last night.
Yes.
And we fucked up.
We did.
When I say
round two.
Round two. Mm-hmm. When I say we fucked up, I fucked up.
It's
there
all right.
was a setting that we didn't know had to be clicked on when you don't have a guest and you're having two microphones. Funnily enough, this is about the third, fourth, fifth time we've done this. And every time I think we lucked out because the software connected to the MacBook microphone instead of these. But I was clear and Tiffany was just dead air and there was nothing we could do. And we did a 2-hour podcast, so
Yeah.
we're doing it.
To be fair, we had drank a lot, so it's probably better now.
Yeah, we're going to be much more efficient. I think we're
I
going to
think
do
we're a little bit
less
more
time.
spicy, a little more lit. So this is probably going to be way
We
more
were fun.
clear and straightforward. Less rambling.
Yes.
Great stories, though, but
Those
less
were good
rambling.
stories. I think we could probably remember the stories
I'm
and
sure,
get to
as
the
it
point
comes
a little
along.
quicker.
Yeah.
Which is good. So if you've seen the title, which I imagine you have, this episode essentially it's going to be based off our Ontario Craft Brewers Conference session that we held last year in November here in Hamilton. And we talked about social media, let me read the exact title, how to market your craft brewery using social media in 2025. So we thought, well, there's a lot of great takeaways. We had Jonathan from Royal City and we had Ram from Fairweather on. They both gave some really good, really good thoughts, really good input on all of that. So we're going to try and remember as much of what they said. And obviously, this is what we do for a living. So we know the answers as well. So we'll be able to share as many little stories and just things that you could get some takeaways and have some actionable results and things that you can leave this podcast and do immediately.
Yeah.
To make it better for your brewery.
That's 100% it.
For the beers, I don't have the same beers as we had last night, but
Ooh,
Tiffany,
but you got a really nice one
I
there.
do have a nice one.
Yeah. Okay, mine is Steam Whistle, Ontario, stand up. We're all about Canada and supporting Canada. And there's something I just love about a Steam Whistle. I have my thing here. Something I love about a Steam Whistle, it's just refreshing and fantastic, even better in the summer when you're, hot and you open one of these.
Yeah.
Oh, and specifically, I just really love it from the bottle.
Isn't it great? The bottle is so fire.
And
drink it
Craig
from
was
the
sent
bottle.
a few of these, several.
Shouts to Steam Whistle. But we have a pod and we have...
Yes. I was like, yes. I think I opened immediately. It was actually, we came home to it when we came back from Florida on Sunday night, or Sunday in the early evening.
Today. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. And put that right in the freezer and, got a little bit cold and then
She was
sipped
all
her.
set.
And I love Steam Whistle. I don't know. It's just like, if you were going to drink Heinekens and Jamaican background, Heinekens are a big part, but now I'm trying to do only Canada. So here you go. So Steam
That's
Whistle.
how you do it. Steam Whistle. Banger. And I have Tooth and Nail's classic Pilsner Vim and Vigor, which is one of the greatest beers of all time. And also shouts to Dan from Zenon for the Tooth and Nail glass to match. This is obviously, shouts to Matt Tweedy in Ottawa. He is one of the best brewers in the country. And this is, I think, pretty well accepted. Do you want to do a pour shot?
Yeah.
Pretty well accepted to be one of the best Pilsners in Canada, if not, if Ontario, if not Canada and beyond. Should I go a bit? There you go. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then we can do a little so you get the cover because I got the actual label.
Oh, sure.
Because I was pouring it backwards because of where the lid was. Boom. All right. First of all, cheers.
Cheers to you.
Yes. Happy to be back. We were in Florida, as Tiff mentioned, for 6.5 weeks. And yeah, we only got back a week ago. So just been settling back in. We had a little bit of a break on the pods, as you may have noticed. Not intentional. It's just so difficult to keep up on the road. We did 2 pods there. We did the Short Finger, and we did the Terraform with Shahan from Lost Craft, which was fantastic.
Yep.
So now we meant to do this one there.
Yes,
So-
we did, but things go in. Lots of palm trees. You got to soak it up, so you can't spend too much time inside.
And there's so many breweries and places that we needed to go, and we're just like, it's kind of hard to I don't know, let's just stay in and do this one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
We could do
Exactly.
this. So,
I love a good steam whistle.
in it fantastic? Just being hogging them. I love it. I'm here for it. That's what it's for.
I know they're just I'm just glad you get to have a beer like this that is more widely distributed. If you can't get even maybe from someone else that you might really love, I feel like you can at least rely on, generally speaking, getting a steam whistle. in a
Yeah.
place in Ontario at a restaurant that may not be cool enough to have a wide variety of craft beer.
Or, you
you
know,
know?
or their choice for not being cool. Yeah, exactly. That was
Yeah.
always my favorite thing about coming to Ontario. I knew we could always get Steam Whistle
Yeah.
almost every time. Not always, yeah, almost every time. If you went to a restaurant that had no craft beer in Montreal, you're kind of shit out of luck.
Yeah.
There's no equivalent.
They're probably
there.
doing better with that now.
Hopefully, I mean, I guess we left 3 years ago,
Yeah,
so
we'll
things
see
might
when
have
we
changed.
head on
But
back in a couple months.
yeah, it's very cool. So, how to market your craft brewery using social media. Once again, so this is essentially like it's kind of like an updated layout of exactly what the talk was. So I'll let you kind of drive it and
Yeah, sure.
go on, and we'll just keep jumping in. We had a bunch of, like I said, last night when we did it, we did have some good stories of great examples of where to go and look for. So we'll still be able to bring up those maybe less rambly.
Yes, love it. So essentially, just want to really think about the 4 C's of social media growth that we have defined based on the decade that we have been running our social media agency and then our own independent work before we created the agency. And that looks like consistency, content quality, clarity, and community. So these are the 4 areas of focus and the fundamentals of social media growth where we see when one is lacking, this usually hurts growth in general. And when we look at where people perform the best, I was going to say clients, but where clients and individuals in general, brands, businesses perform the best is when they're really locking into all 4 of these. So consistency, content, quality, clarity, community, and we'll go throughout what that looks like at each part of it. And then in the end, just always considering the fact that we are in an attention economy when we look at social media. There's so much content out there. So doing what you can in order to, you don't have to stand out in some ridiculous way, but that you are consistent in the way that you show up and you make content that respects people's time, I'd say, are the 2 things, and speaks to them, of course. So I thought we could go over some high-level best practices.
Sure.
So if we just kick off with platforms, say, Instagram, in terms of platforms that you should look at being on, so we'll describe why we think that this is a good area to be on. Instagram, that's like a no-brainer. It's one of the top social media platforms in existence. Almost everybody has an Instagram account. If you want to reach your demographic across various age groups, Instagram is fantastic for this. Not much more to be said on it. You probably personally have an Instagram account and you do it, so you understand what's going on
I don't
there.
think I've seen a brewery that didn't have a presence on
Yeah.
Instagram. I think I've seen
It would be
almost
weird.
every other platform, breweries that don't have, even on Facebook and stuff, that don't have a presence there. But Instagram is
Yeah.
it's like the one that I think everybody knows. That, you have no
Exactly.
choice.
And we'll talk about post optimization in a second too, but Instagram is really great for search now. And when we think about even how we use it as consumers, Instagram is the first place that we go when we're thinking about a place to visit. So
Yes.
whenever we're traveling or going somewhere new in general, we're always we just go to their Instagram to get all the information that we
Yes.
can. So Instagram is a great place for that. TikTok, and we're going to talk about Gen Z a little bit more because we know that their drinking habits are very different to us millennials who, we enjoy a good drinker 6 to 10 to 20. So they're
we
very
ever.
different. And I've noticed this even with my cousin, his partner and all that. It's just, that's the only Gen Z people I'm around.
Same.
But I do think, and then just overall general reading about them. But yeah, it's they're
Reading about them.
reading. Isn't that
like
crazy?
they're
Yeah.
Like they're animals.
They're just the studies about them. So for those folks under 26, I believe that's where their cutoff is at this point.
If Dan's 27, he is
Oh,
the
so
oldest
maybe-
is 29.
Okay, so 29. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Jeez. Okay. TikTok, great platform for brand awareness. Now, I say this as an individual who does not use TikTok, and does not like TikTok or anything that TikTok stands for.
You don't fuck with it.
However, from a marketing perspective, yes, that demographic is on it. And not only is that demo on it, millennials are on it, Gen X is on it too. So you're not just actually only attracting Gen Z, but it is one of their top used apps. So it makes sense to show up where they are. And TikTok has great search functionality in terms of being able to find things local to you if you type them in, but also great discoverability, which is why everybody blew up on everybody. A lot of people tended to blow up on that app is because when TikTok was really trying to compete and get ahead of Instagram, really in that beginning phase, when we think about the pandemic, they made it just easier to rack up views and engagement because they knew that's how you get product adoption. When people feel like a mini celebrity or they feel like they're getting attention and they're getting those dopamine hits, they're more inclined to stay on the app longer. So TikTok did that, and they did that by massively, their algorithm is wild. So it knows what to feed you, and it also feeds you local content. So I think there is a really good, well, there is a very good option there. And TikTok doesn't need to be an entire strategy on its own. We talk about Instagram first strategies a lot, and the benefit that that has in terms of creating content with Instagram in mind first, and then just cross posting it to other apps. And TikTok is great because you can be super lo-fi with your content. They actually don't really, the user base doesn't really generally tend to lean towards hyper like high quality, super hyper produced or highly produced content. They prefer that lo-fi, like organic content. So even things that you have that are stories can work well on TikTok. So it doesn't need to be super a big pressure point.
Yeah. Can we just pause for one second?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll be right back. And we are back. Technical things, man. This pod, I don't know if the universe is like...
They don't want us to talk about social media. They don't want us to drop these gems.
Yeah, so we should be good. We should be all good. So sorry to interrupt that.
No worries. All right, the next platform, that's what we were speaking about earlier. So we talked about Instagram and TikTok. Let's talk about Facebook. Now, Facebook is a great platform for the older demo, of course. I feel like majority of breweries, that's what I'm running through this a little bit quickly because I feel like most people have Facebook too.
On a lot.
Yeah, and I feel like most people have Facebook. And then if you're in a Quebec audience, you definitely need to be on Facebook. There ain't no question about that because Quebec loves them some Facebook.
Loves it. Most breweries, I would say, would be on Facebook, and I think it's probably because you have to be on Facebook to create the location. Mm-hmm. So if you're not, like, I think that's the only way to be able to do it. So I would say that, like, also because brewery fans tend to skew a bit older.
Yes.
And older folks are on Facebook.
Exactly.
A little more or less, we came up with it, like millennials. So I know people make fun of it and shit, but it was like it was the main thing for quite a while for the Gen Z.
Yes.
If there is any Gen Z watching.
And you use Facebook, so.
I use it. That's what I was saying last
Yeah.
night. Yes, there's a bunch of people I exclusively communicate with through Facebook Messenger. So, like, I don't even know why. I think it's more like their choice. It's just like where people are.
Yeah.
The people are there, and I kind of almost treat Facebook like my homepage on my desktop.
It's interesting. See, then it's a good opportunity and a good reason to be there.
Yeah.
So again, cross-posting the content, you know, the Instagram reels that you share can nicely be shared to Facebook too.
Yes.
With some modifications to captions and stuff like that, of course. YouTube is another platform that is heavily underutilized, but so great for building like real long-term relationships with people who end up really knowing you, knowing your brand, liking your brand, trusting your brand. That's the know, like, and trust aspect of creating those types of relationships with your audience. And I think something that would be valuable for everybody to look out or check out is the Treehouse YouTube channel, which Nathan is his name, I believe. Yes. Nathan, who is the co-founder and head brewer, he has incredible content on there, and I feel like they're a perfect representation of what YouTube could look like for a brewery. And if somebody decided to do this in Canada, they could slay in this area because again, search function, YouTube, second largest search platform, Google being number one, Google being the parent company, ABC technically, Alphabet being the but you get the point.
I wonder if there might be Canadian ones we just don't know about.
Sure, so please let us know if there is. Building a brewery, great content.
Yeah.
Then just like doing brew days, great content. And then teaching people how to brew, getting those home brewers excited about brewing, showing people why brewing or craft beer costs more. You know, these are all the opportunities you get to do in long form. Yeah. Technically every company needs to be a media company. So every brand or business should essentially be a media company because that's just the primary form of content that people consume content. That's the way they get information.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense. And then anything else on YouTube?
Not really. The example I gave last night that I was rambling about, I think it's not as relevant because it wasn't even their example. It was on Mashable. It was the Batch Brewing in Detroit.
Oh, no, but you said you found Batch Brewery through
a YouTube series.
Yeah.
From another website called Mashable. I don't even know if they're around no more, but they had a bunch of businesses and they just followed them. And then we interviewed them in 2017 and we went back twice last year. So was it last year? Yeah, last year. I feel like YouTube is a bit underutilized because it maybe seems a bit daunting because it's so much more work. And the editing and all this type of stuff. But the very least we would say is like start a YouTube channel. Like it's basically mandatory. And then you put all of the reels on there. So if you have an Instagram first strategy, meaning that you create for Instagram and then just put cross post stuff everywhere else, just put your reels on shorts and you could have a YouTube channel with just shorts, and that's fine because, like we were saying, the other example we gave was my brother has a mountain bike YouTube channel, and he's got like over 1 million, like probably pushing 2 million views on his shorts alone.
Yeah.
In like 2 years, and it's Toronto mountain bike.
In his first year, he had over 1 million.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So probably by now it's pretty similar. He's very, very, very consistent. I think he posts every single day, but either way, can show that you can get actual views on shorts from real people just by posting without doing anything too crazy.
He's at nearly 2 million, 1.9 million now.
There you go.
Awesome.
And
Great
most
brand
of those
awareness,
are
and he finds people who, well, he ends
People
up
know
meeting
him.
people who know him
Yeah.
because of that presence.
Gets
So,
recognized
yeah.
in the forest of Toronto, and
Yeah.
they know him from the music or from that. So either way, shorts are super key.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then this part I actually wanted you to really go into because I feel like you're quite passionate about this area,
I am.
and it is very much a missed opportunity and things that we still see and still struggle with as consumers
Yes.
to this day, which is optimizing your profiles for success. So right now we're really talking about the high level best practices, and this is one of the top best practices to consider is optimizing your profile. So
Yeah.
tell people what they might be missing and how they could
Yes.
really optimize for discoverability.
That would be discoverability
And ease of friction for
there
the
you go.
consumer. Yeah.
Reducing friction is going to be something we'll probably mention here a lot. Just meaning don't make people do shit. Give them what they want immediately. For like the idea is like a one tap. It should be really one tap away from almost anything they want, maybe two most. So the idea is that like if you think of it from the consumer's perspective, we just got back from 6.5 weeks in Florida. We're looking for new cafes, restaurants, breweries, bars, all that stuff, basically every day. And there's been so many times we're very patient people, so we would go to like typically the way I did it because I find it was easier to find them on Google. I could get to the Instagram, the guaranteed Instagram from their website 9 times out of 10, so I can see what their Instagram presence is like. Because often the website didn't give enough information. Finding in, you want to find opening hours, you want to find all these different things, and if it didn't, like sometimes you'd have like we were there during President's Day, and you know you need to put the updated stuff. Hey, long weekend holiday hours.
Yep.
Like it should be in your stories every day. It should be a pin post to your feed. It could even be in your bio. Things like that. Just anything that a consumer, if you think from the perspective of a consumer, what do they need to know? And they need to know now because it could be the decision between like they're in the car and they maybe last minute decision. Hey, let's go there, and maybe if you're smart, we've fucked up many times by going to places without checking.
Yes, but also sometimes we've checked and they didn't have anything on their social.
There you go, and you pull up and they're closed.
And they're closed, like on Craig's birthday. So, yeah.
We did. There was a brewery. Don't want to diss them because they're phenomenal, but
Yeah.
I went to a brewery, like it was an hour drive from my birthday, and they had a private event. We got there 15 minutes before then, but there was no mention of that on social. I think we both checked.
Yeah.
Just to make sure.
Yeah.
We found another place that was awesome close by anyway, but the point was that they missed out on a whatever, 150, $200
And generally it's
bill.
like you're not going to make a reservation to like go to a brewery at like 4 p.m. on the afternoon.
And that's what the
when
time
they're
it was.
open
It
10
was
to 9 or
3:45
something,
that
or
day.
whatever, 11 to 9. You generally feel like you're covered. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is something that like I just feel like people don't think about the utility of it. Like it's how people find information about your company. Instagram is probably the easiest way. And if you think of it like a business card / Google profile, like it should have everything they want. So you can leverage those pin posts, make sure it says everything in the bio. Sometimes I really love it when even people just have the hour go.
I love the hours in the bio.
F,
Yeah.
noon
9
to
to
10
6 or whatever. Yeah. I love
and then
that.
just have
So
that.
convenient.
Don't even have to look. And,
Yeah.
and then you could still have it again in the
Yeah.
pin post, or the pin post should be the updated stuff. Maybe some breweries have
Multiple locations. I love when they make sure to add those in.
and
like
put them in the bio
put
as
them in
well.
the
Like
bio. Yeah.
I don't know, Mortalis, Frequentum,
Yeah.
fucking Bellwoods. Like
Yeah.
there's places with multiple locations as well. There were what was the other thing? There was some of them have like rules about how you can purchase. Like some of the maybe that's more like the hypey ones already that make it difficult, but maybe there's others
But
that
that's
don't.
important to have too. If you are somebody that's like important information that people need to know, like if there's key details,
How to
and
buy it,
how to buy.
hey, cans drop at Wednesday at noon.
Yeah.
Line up, no online sales, all that stuff, just so
Exactly.
people know. Because I remember when I discovered Fidens in Albany, and I wanted to get stuff, and I realized that they have a can drop. I was like, they don't anymore. They've got a brew pub, but before they had a brew pub, it was like whatever. It was one day of the week, and there was like a 3-hour window, and you couldn't pre-order. You had to just fucking rock up or whatever. So it's a bit of an ordeal. And I didn't know any of this stuff. So fortunately, by the time we went down there, because I was trying to get some once I discovered them, and then by the time we went down, they had a brew pub. And even then, I was still trying to find out the information. Is there a drop, or can you just anybody come up and purchase? So everything like that, excuse me, that somebody would need to know put on the website, and then also leverage those links in your bios, whether there's new releases. Also, the other thing that really pissed me off, if I'm going to a brewery and they don't have date codes. Well, one, do they have food? Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes you want to know, do I need to eat before I go there, or can I eat there, which usually saves time.
Yes.
So putting like food trucks, Tuesday to Friday or whatever
And
it
who
might
it's
be,
gonna be,
or kitchen open all day, something like that. Just anything that lets people know,
When it
because that
closes
also
is almost
entices
more
them to come.
important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm actually more annoyed if I went and ate somewhere separately just to go drink somewhere, and then I'm like, oh, I could have just
eaten here,
Yeah.
and it's probably similar food.
Yeah.
Then the other thing, so that the food side, but then I found a lot. I obviously don't prefer the 4-pack purchase, so if I can get singles is better. But I would say 50% of the time, people did not have date codes. So because we're traveling, I'm not going to drink all these beers immediately. I want them to be as fresh as possible, particularly the IPA, because I'm going to bring them back and drink them over time. I'll drink some on the way, but we're mostly out. So if I can't check, my next step, if there's no date code, I'm going to Instagram to see what dropped. Probably 50% of breweries didn't have the beers on there. So then I bought nothing. I was just like, I can't risk it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go ask somebody. Everyone's busy, and a lot of people don't know. They probably just won't know. And then they kind of act like it's annoying and stuff because maybe not everyone's date code princess. Cool. But anyway, yeah, just all of that information that people would want to know. Just think about, like I understand there's physical restrictions to the date codes because the specific canning lines don't do it. But at the very least, put on your fucking Instagram so people know when things drop and they can understand what's fresh, what's new. That's what a lot of consumers in beer want. If it's flagship, different story. You don't have to, you just post, hey, fresh batch, just hit the shelves. Yeah, I think that basically covers it. But
In
summarize.
summary, yeah.
Think from the perspective of the consumer. What do they want to know? Give them that information and leverage what Instagram offers you, like the actual features.
The buttons,
you have
the location, so the maps option, so people can just type.
Make sure it's linked.
Yeah, because then people can just click and open up in Google Maps for them or whatever their phone map is.
Yep.
So yeah, making
There was
sure
one
that you
today.
have
I
that.
checked. It had the address. The new one. I don't want to say.
But it wasn't tappable.
It wasn't tappable.
Yeah.
And I had to go and search for it.
See,
and
it's
was
just
annoying,
making it
but
as easy as possible
yeah,
for people.
a lot of other people. Once again, not everyone. And you know what? Sometimes we don't have the time. If it's too difficult, next. But if we're traveling, we've already done a bit of research into the places we want to go, and then when you get there, you start looking into the actual practicalities of, all right, so what are their times? Where are they? Where else we're going today? Do they have food? Do they have stuff to go? Like, should I get it now? Blah blah blah. So that would be the main thing as far as profile optimization. We spend more time on that because it's that important.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's way too ignored.
I think so for sure.
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
for
Letting
my
people know if
liking.
they can buy beer online, that's another important one too.
Yeah.
Any accolades that you have, that's great to add. If you're
Yep.
number one on Untapped this year or something, that's cool.
Particularly
Why
those
not?
community awards that just dropped.
Exactly.
So,
Why not take
yeah.
take advantage of that a little bit and big yourself up. So encourage people to purchase, and then post optimization, of course, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the content quality. So that was one of our 4 C's of social media growth. But when we're thinking about obviously the creative, so the content of the post, you want that to be high quality, but other things that you want to do is make sure that you're using descriptive terms so that Instagram can pick up so an app like Instagram, but most of these apps at this point, they're all their algorithms
SEO.
all can pick up SEO. Yeah, they're all search engine focused or search engine geared. So thinking about how you can use your captions or the things that you say to let it be clear who you are and what you're selling. So using craft beer, Toronto, Ontario, any of these words, that's going to be really beneficial. Maybe it doesn't work in every post, but if you did have a beer that was, if you do launch a beer, technically every time you could put Toronto, Ontario or something like that in it, because you could say craft beer, the name, brewed in Toronto, Ontario at this place or something. I don't know,
not in hashtags, just in the
caption.
copy.
Yeah, it's just something you could put as something that you add to. You always just add at the end, kind of like how you always put the brewery and the location. It's just something that could be part of your caption, the way you caption, just to continue feeding the words like beer, Toronto, or beer location, whatever your location may be, into the algorithm. And then of course tagging your actual location, so one, owning your location and then tagging your location. That helps with making sure that your posts are served to people in local areas, because that's a big driver for search. So you probably notice if you do use apps if you're in Toronto, maybe the Date Night Toronto comes up, or Six Buzz Toronto, whatever it might be. These Toronto things come to you, even if you don't follow them, they come to you and explore and stuff like that, because the algorithm understands where you're from. So, and that's because those posts let it be known. So make sure that you're optimizing for that too. And then, yeah, we'll get into quality a little bit too. But between, oh no. Bear, it's not going to be the time.
It's not the one, my guy.
To chew your, what is this? What toy is that one? Oh, it's the.
Of course, he has a loud. Well, maybe
Yeah.
it won't come through on the mics because
Okay.
you've got to be right up to it.
Okay, so our dog is squeaking a loud toy, but maybe it's not coming through. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
And then, so when we're talking about post optimization, those are the things that you just want to look for using. You don't need to use 30 hashtags. That's an old school principle, but SEO definitely trumps that more. However, if you do have some tags that make sense, then go for it, especially if it's like location based or something like that, you know, like,
Yeah, I
like
would
the
always
brew
do
pub
Ontario
has one.
Craft beer, Ontario
Yeah,
beer,
Ontario Craft beer,
Toronto
those
beer,
ones, yeah,
Toronto.
because that still just gives
Quebec beer.
context to the algorithm, and you
Yeah.
want to give the algorithm as much context as possible so your posts can be organically served without you having to boost them.
Yeah.
And we're actually not going to really talk about paid strategies in this one at all. Just we're going to keep it organic, but maybe that's something we could do at another time.
Yeah,
And we have
that's
so many
interesting.
paid so many
Videos on High
ad
Season.
videos on our High Season YouTube channel, actually, so I wouldn't do that here. We could, if you are interested in seeing like ads, we partner with Meta actually to do some of those videos. So those would really help if you're looking at how to run ads to successfully promote your business just from a paid targeted perspective. So definitely recommend checking that out.
I'll leave it in the description.
Perfect.
And on YouTube and on the pod platform, so that people can go to the High Season YouTube channel and everything's there. There's little playlists with ads and playlists with all different other stuff.
Perfect. And then we move on to formats. So just the formats that perform the best, just wanted to quickly touch on that. So video, of course, more than anything. Reels up to 3 minutes, but if you can make them shorter, just because the 3 minutes exists doesn't mean that people are willingly watching 3 minutes of content in Reels, unless there's something like so dynamic about the video that they really want to give it more attention, something that's like either so surprising or shocking or entertaining, something like that. Generally speaking, the shorter the better, just based on attention spans and just based on how much content is available. But video trumps all in terms of getting reach. Carousels, though, are so great for engagement and outperform Reels in engagement. So leveraging carousels when you can over any time that you would post a single image or video that would be longer, so like a 3 minute plus video, cutting up a video into carousels, so like something that might have been a 6 minute video, cutting that up into 6 carousels, for example, would be more beneficial. And then if you had a single image, just adding a second slide will make sure that you have more opportunities for engagement, because that's just the content, that's the post type that Instagram and Instagram specifically in this conversation pushes over single image posts or long form video. They really don't love long form video.
I don't know if that's loud for you, but
Yeah, I guess you can't see if it spikes in there.
he stopped now. But
Okay.
I actually
The
can see
other
if it's
thing
like, so-
is posting stories daily, which might be like, what are you, don't you see I'm trying to brew here and do things in my life and you want me to post stories daily? But it would be great if you could show up Monday to Friday at least. And I honestly feel like you could show up on the weekend too,
I was
because
gonna
people
say,
are there
breweries
drinking
are
on the
open.
weekend.
Yeah.
So you're open all the time. So it's like post those days. And it doesn't have to be this ridiculous thing. Honestly, we're testing right now and we're noticing that one story post a day, and that generally even expires a lot of the time, you know, and there's just you post again the next day, are getting more views than multi-story posts. So the fall off is a lot more now in multiple stories per day versus just one. So even if your one is story of the day is the story that you do every time that you kick off the day, which is, hey y'all, fresh pours,
Open
come
till
see
10.
Mike at the thing.
Yeah.
We're open till 10, you know, whoever's pouring, whatever. Like just one.
Unless, or just one message per day.
Exactly. And
Or like one post and multiple messages. Hey, open till 10. New drop available at noon.
all on one slot. It could be all in one frame.
Food truck at 1. Like,
Yeah.
you know, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Just,
it could be honestly as simple as like you are showing your tap room and it's just a video of your tap room and you have the text overlay of all the important need to know information.
exactly what I was picturing.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
And then another day is a brew day, for example. So if you brew every Tuesday or more days, then that's like even better and easier content to create, because you just put it up and record a segment of it and say excited for this new brew. So there's all these small moments that happen that seem like mundane or not important to you, but they help you show up and help people connect to you more. And it also just helps put you in the algorithm more, which is the goal, especially from an organic perspective.
Yep.
And then the next part, and I think John at Royal City was really great at speaking to this.
Yeah,
and I just think in general, Guelph and Guelph.beer is so good in this category. And this is prioritizing community. Specifically, the point would be prioritizing community over virality, but just the emphasis on community and how they've had community posts that I remember he talked about a post that it wasn't even intended to go viral. It was just like, I think the construction finished somewhere and then they made like a funny post about it and then it got so much engagement. And then they just have posts like that that have to do with Guelph, not even with Royal City in particular, but just with the Guelph community. And those posts do really well because people connect to community. So thinking about how you can really like show up and create a lot of pride for the community that you're in. Always even easier if you're in a smaller town or city or place like that. But you do have these areas that you can big up really, you know, like there's the East Side and things like that. You can be in Riverside, for example. That's like a way that you would nail down.
Brewery collective.
Exactly. Things like that and really emphasizing that so that people are super proud and you can even talk about things that are super relevant just that area knows or cares about, you know, things like that.
Right.
So collaborating, and that's collaborating beyond the breweries even as well. So with other small businesses, and this is something I love about Hamilton, love Hamilton for this. I just feel like they're so good at collaborating with each other. Even yesterday, a cafe opened. Cafe did like I think they had like a soft launch before, lightly, but this was soft, so light, yeah. But they did a hard launch of their cafe yesterday. It's called
Fibs. FIBS.
FIBS, and it's inside Born and Raised in Hamilton. And we went there yesterday on the day they opened because they had tagged our butcher, Jamie Waldron, J. Waldron Butchers, which is here in Hamilton, and just like the best butcher of all time. But that's a whole other conversation. Like, just a great experience every single time. But they had, like, Jamie reposted it. So because the account reposted it, I was just like, oh, who's this cafe? Like, because if a cafe wants to use J. Waldron Butchers as a supplier, I'm just going to assume that that cafe likes higher quality ingredients. So then you'll probably kind of be closer to the type of coffee that I like anyways, which is third wave coffee. So then we went, looked at the Insta, felt like the vibe, and we went and were there on their opening day and spent whatever. We got like 2, they have also Guyanese patties that were fire.
Oh, great.
Got 2 of those, got 2 coffees. Everything was great. And then we got to support them literally because they had collaborated, technically even outside of social, with another small business, and
that
then
we were patrons of.
that we were patrons of, and then those small businesses co-sign each other. So like the reason that influencers and creators have worked so well is because they do have that buy-in and that respect and that love from their audience and that co-sign. So it's like when an influencer that you really love or a creator you really love tells you to buy something, you're more inclined to buy it, right? We all know that. That's why that industry blew up and is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
If the same thing goes, like I trust, because I love our butcher, I trust anything that butcher, you know, works with, uses, eats from, any of those things. And that's even just based on conversations. I'm like, okay, I like the same things you like, I can see. And then of course, like that same butcher again, Jamie is partnering with Mark at Barrel Heart, for example. And then they get to collaborate. And then on top of that, they're co-signing each other, but they're also merging audiences a little bit or sharing audiences and getting that opportunity to promote each other and cross-promote with each other. And that is so, so valuable, even when they're not in the same industry. So it's one thing because breweries are already amazing and have been collabing forever with each other. But I think that's even more beneficial to start talking about the small businesses in your area, especially if you're already working with them or doing something with them, because you likely will share the same audience. And then you're in a different category, which is even better. So it's not even like someone's choosing between going to like one brewery or another. You're going to go get food from somewhere potentially, then you might get a beer from another place. You might get your coffee from somewhere else. But if there's this thing happening where you're using the beans from somebody in your beer, you should post the heck about that. Make sure you create content around that and make sure those are collaboration posts. So when they're published, that's something I see really missed all the time, where it's like breweries even collab with each other. And then they don't have it as a collaboration post, and then they post individually. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Separate locations too, they do that too.
Yeah, it's just like, when the separate location, just make it a collaboration post. You're also saving everybody so much time. You've watered down the post. So it's like, And now you get to just take advantage of the two audiences, make them see the same thing, make all the engagement on that one post, because the more engagement that a post has, the more it will be served to new audiences. That's how these platforms work. The more engagement that a post sees in the first few, it's technically say minutes, but hours of it being live, the more likely it is to be served to a wider audience. So you want to capitalize on that. And the collaboration post feature is one of the best features that have ever been created on Instagram for that reason.
So
and it
fire.
works on Facebook
And
too.
you have up to 6, so you and 5 more.
Yeah.
So always think about that. Like if you're doing something and you're going to post about another brand or somebody else, do a collab post.
Yeah.
Like whenever we post the podcast, we always do the collab post. And I would say maybe only 50% of them get accepted. I don't always tell them, which I probably should, but I feel like it's either the social person doesn't understand it. And sometimes they've got feeds that are like very
See, that's different. Like if you have a super curated feed, then that I understand. However,
mad
you
at that.
can accept a reel and then just remove it from your feed.
Yeah, you can
That's
keep
what
it-
I do. Because say High Season has a very curated feed too. So I'll just accept a collaboration
side.
post and then I just, if it's
The
on
problem
reel.
is ours are not reels. They're
Oh, yours are a
carousels.
carousel. So yeah.
But they're really nice. They're well presented, so they can suit. So I'm not offended, but I almost feel like I know the ones when they don't accept. I'm like, oh, I know their feed. They're not going to
Yeah,
accept
that's
it.
fair.
But sometimes they surprise me, and I just feel like it's like whilst I understand with that because it wasn't a discussion thing and it's a podcast. But when we're doing like a collab, like. Which we have a lot coming up, and you'll hear about that very soon. Like, I'm really hoping all the breweries will do collab posts with us. We'll invite them. We're going to make the content, and I just hope they understand. Like, I might have to just mention to them, hey, I'm going to do a collab.
Oh, that's
post. It's gonna be
mandatory.
so much-
Yes, like
yeah.
hey, just so you know, like
Yeah.
and this is the date that it's gonna happen, and all
Yep.
that stuff. I think that'll help too. But yeah, it's like for sure, like we should all be collectively promoting things together.
Each other,
for
and
sure.
leveraging each other's
Yeah.
following and reach. Really,
Yeah.
is what it's all about. Because followers don't really matter, but the reach matters.
Exactly.
Each account has that. So
Exactly.
yeah, very cool.
And
Very
then, of
important.
course, that goes for organizations as well. So if you partner with organizations, which is pretty common in the industry too, is just really making sure that you find ways to capitalize on that moment. So, you know, not only just saying, hey, this is what happened or what we're doing, but if you are meeting with each other, if any of that stuff's happening where in-person things are going on, then capture that content because you can use it on social and then collaborate with each other that way.
Yeah, which is dope.
Perfect.
That's all on
Yeah.
that one. Then I guess storytelling.
Yeah, so on the storytelling piece, wanted to touch on this because there are some brands who do this really, really well, and I think it's awesome. Just another way of standing out is really not just focusing on selling and posting the thing that you're selling, but you know, teaching people about it, sharing a backstory about it. So instead of just saying like, hey, this is a new IPA, explain the origin story of it. Like, how did it come to be? Did Sarah or Mike have this idea for the beer, and then that's why the beer was made?
There's probably Matt.
Oh, Matt. Oh, yeah, because Matt's very popular.
That's the joke, yeah.
So Sarah or Matt, or Mike.
A lot of Sarahs, a lot of Mikes.
Yeah. So
lot of
that's something to
Dans.
consider.
Barrington, you okay?
It's just
He's like
sorry, our
choking.
dog is. You okay
You
there,
okay,
Bear?
buddy?
You okay, honey? Okay, you're just a weirdo.
Come on.
Okay.
Come here, buddy. Yeah, bring your toy.
All right, bring your Pliny.
He got his Pliny toy.
Bring your Pliny. Okay.
Our dog's an alcoholic.
Uh,
It seems to be.
Like father, like son.
Hey.
So, you know, explaining just like, say, the story. You said, I think Troy does this really well. I'm sure you've seen other brands or other
On the
beer breweries who do
storytelling?
this well on just like, you know, enhancing their captions and things
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Troy
to really
Badlands
just,
does
yeah,
great
to
job.
really just, you know, so maybe it's worth taking a look at Badlands and seeing like how that's done. But I do think there's a lot of value.
Yeah, I think the other examples we gave were like Burial, who were like have.
Oh,
have a
Burial's like wild.
quirky-
I think theirs is hilarious
Yeah,
to me. I think that is
well,
so
they're not
funny.
trying to
Their
be funny.
names
It's
are-
like so metal and
Yeah.
so dark and like whatever.
I think it's sick.
And
yeah.
the way they describe everything is just, and then they'll go into what I like. They do like prose, like the name is like usually like 10 words in the name. It's like something like, I can't even mimic it. It's phenomenal. Look them up, Burial Beer. They're my fave. And then they would keep going with that topic and expand maybe 2-3 sentences. And then they'll be like, this is an IPA brewed with this, you get notes of blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. So it gives me the little like fun shit, which is like their brand. And that's what I expect from them. And then they get into the business of what I want. Like if I'm
Yeah.
going to Untapped, I want to, on both that, it's the same,
Description, I assume, right?
on Untapped
Yeah.
as on their fucking Instagram, which I love
Yeah, I was
when
thinking that's
breweries
smart
do
to
that.
just do
Troy
that.
does that really well.
Nice.
A
Just
lot
makes
of
sense.
breweries do it really
Great.
well. But yeah, just like having having all the information there, but also give a little story in your own way, whatever that is. That's in the caption. There's obviously through the actual post themselves.
Exactly. So you can do that with the video. So storytelling, it isn't limited to your captions. I think Town is another fantastic example of promoting a beer. The way that they showcase and talk about their beers, I just always watch because I just find it's just interesting.
It's kind of funny.
Even if I'm not going to have the beer because I'm not going to be able to get it or something, I still just like hearing about it.
Yeah.
So even, I think there was one the other day. Oh, it's like a dark Mexican lager. And I think the story was like,
wasn't someone named Jeff in Mexico or something?
I think, he was in Mexico. Oh, yeah. So he's like, I was in Mexico. And everybody was drinking, what's the one that starts with L? Or what's the Mexican beer?
Not Corona.
No. What's the other? Dos Equis.
Oh. That's L. Dos
Sorry,
Equis.
that's completely different. But he's like, I was drinking, everyone was drinking like the light Dos Equis, and I was drinking the amber one. Everybody's looking at me weird. So I was like, fuck it. Like, fuck y'all, I'm the cool one and you're not, basically. Whatever, it was funny.
Jeff's the best.
So Jeff's awesome. So, but the video was just like, made me laugh, and I watched it and I was kind of like, damn, I'm so in. I would love to try that because it's just cool. So it obviously works for the Mexican lager. So you hear the story behind it, and it's just cooler. It just connects you more, and it just makes you feel like you want to be a part of it. And again, because people buy into people, right? That's what the storytelling does.
And they bring the team in, too,
exactly. They're very good at bringing the team in, which is good. And again, that fits on the principle. We actually just did a video in partnership with Meta about like what content performs the best. They had analyzed 13.1 billion impressions worth of content.
B?
And B.
That's right.
And human connection was the first one. And that's just, again, because people connect to people. And I think even using Jeff as an example there of founder-led content, if you are a founder who doesn't mind being in front of the camera, I cannot express, and we are business owners who are also an example of people who showed up in front of cameras and showed up in front of the camera, and it changed the trajectory of our agency. Like, when people love seeing from the people who are behind the work, especially like the founder, because you really feel like you're supporting that person, and it feels good to support that person, and then like even see them online, and then you might see them in the tap room, and you're like, cool, that's the founder, like I know that. It gets it just creates that additional connection, that additional piece that you don't get with major conglomerates and things like that, right? They're never going to see the dude from Budweiser, I mean, one of the big places, walking around normally. So I'm assuming they're dead by now, but maybe not.
There must be. It's good.
Yeah. So, but
they would have sold forever.
Oh yeah, exactly. So there you go. But that's the point, is that again, on that community piece, on that human connection piece, it's so valuable, if you're okay with it, for you to be the one that shows up. And you really could do that through like beer education, just choosing even like one category of content, and we'll talk about content pillars and categories in a second when we're really touching on consistency, but thinking about one piece of content that you would be down to own and say, I'm going to do it, whether it be every release, or if you're the head brewer, for example, and the founder or co-founder, that's a great one to do. We're like, I'm going to be the one to talk about it every time. So Kanawaki's great at that too.
Oh yeah, Drew's really good.
So things like that to consider.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones.
Dominion, there's a few that you would see, and that connection is super, super important. So yeah.
Go with whatever makes sense for you and your brand and the brand voice.
Or you might have somebody who's amazing that you trust and love, and Troy from Great Lakes is an example of this, who is such a steward of the brand, and like, to be honest, like I think of him more when I think of GLB. We
already met Lackey, the brewer, and Pete, the owner, at the OCBs in 2023.
Yeah. It's like in my whole life, or my whole like of knowing of GLB, I've only ever thought about Troy. Yeah. So like he's a great example of, if it's not the founder, there is like potentially like an employee there who's basically like, it's the full top line ambassador, knows everything, is a great representation, and you can leave them in the room with PR with anybody, and they're gonna know exactly what to say and can show up fantastically. So he's a good example of that too.
Yeah.
And then consistency. So let's move on. Those are just best
practices. And the other ones will be these rest ones will be a bit faster as well, because the best practices probably deserved a bit of space on them.
So on the consistency side of things, that's just establishing a workflow. Of course, if you're a brewer who's listening to this or watching this, you are fantastic at systems. So just create the system that makes sense for you. It's usually going to be 4 parts when it comes to social: planning, batching, scheduling, and engaging. And we talked to the guys when we did the panel, John and Ram, and they both had different ways that they approach it, and why we loved having them both was because one was a representation of a brewer, obviously, because Ram's a brewer, and then John is a photographer, videographer, content creator, marketer, so he has like that side of things, and he does it for several people. And they had their different approaches. In the end, one thing I loved, and the key tasks, we're just going to go over like what key tasks look like. If it's you who's going to say, okay, I'm listening to this, I'm going to be the one to do everything. What are the areas of focus? It's going to be filming and photography. So whatever, the brewing process, your team, your taproom vibe, you just doing something, setting up a camera in the corner on brew day on a tripod and just recording parts of that process, because that can end up being a piece of content and several pieces of content. Editing content is going to be a big part of that too. So taking what you captured and obviously editing it into something that's engaging, writing captions. So seeing how you can go beyond just listing the beer name or just saying something's new, and really just like trying to tell a story in that capacity if you can. Scheduling content and monitoring engagement, and then responding to comments, DMs, reviews. That's the community engagement piece. You cannot ignore the community engagement aspect of like your role on social media if you're somebody who's on the account and is managing the account, because that is one, helping you for the algorithm, but two, and most importantly, building that community. Like if people are tagging you, you don't like it, you don't reply to stuff, like ugh, it just feels like you just don't, you're not huge, so you don't give a fuck, basically. It's not like a massive brand account. It's like you just, at the end of the night, if you just even like the things that people did and reply, if it's not like 700 posts that that it's too much, I'm sure it's not. Like you got to take that step.
I was going to shout out Bebo for that, because he told me he got that from our videos. So I didn't tell him personally. He watched the videos.
Hey, Bebo.
And he is the best he runs the Third Moon stuff. And he always, every single time, even if it's like, cheers, bro. And he goes, he'll like the photo on stories, because I always post on stories. He'll comment after resharing it.
Beautiful.
And then being something like, cheers, bro, or like some emojis, just something simple. So I told him just anything, it doesn't matter. And then on my other account where I post the reviews, he'll comment every single time.
Look at that.
Every time.
Yeah,
and he's
beautiful.
been doing it. I want to say this is their 5th anniversary coming up. I reckon he's been doing it for like 3 years.
I love it. No, that's awesome, and it makes a difference. It makes you feel good, and even probably not knowing them originally, you probably still felt good about it, knowing that the person on the other side of the account actually cared and acknowledged and was happy that you're drinking their product.
Exactly. Like Bellwoods used to not do it. It used to, like, it almost was like they were too cool, and I feel like they changed that. That was probably when they were too cool.
Yeah.
And then they got a full marketing team, and since then they've been way different with
They're
how
great.
they approach it, and I think it's just a better approach. Whilst I get it, because a lot of like Treehouse isn't really going to respond. Oh, who does? Russian River responds to me every time.
I was like, you should be able to, because at that point, if you're
time.
that large, you have a social team, and they can do that. So
and
there's
and
no
it's usually
excuse,
like just a
really.
heart. They'll reshare it, and they'll like it and do a heart emoji in stories every fucking time.
There you go. See, as you should. It doesn't take that much.
That was one
but
of the bigger ones. Burial. I didn't know Burial knew us, and they messaged us when we were at Asheville, and they were like, "Oh, I wish we knew you were coming." I'm like, I didn't think you give a fuck. Like I love them; they're my favorite. That's why I was like, "Oh man, I didn't want to. I didn't think I."
Was
had
on the
a
radar.
Relationship like that was on the radar like that, and they don't always share it, but they're very curated feeds, so I understand why they wouldn't accept it. But they also do, and they got 100K followers. So like, it is like you said, it's possible that if you're a larger one and they're doing it, and if you've got 20K or 10K and you're a local brewery, or 5K, just it means so much more to people that they feel seen, that they're purchasing your products, because that money could have gone in. How many breweries' pockets could that have gone to? And they chose you, and on top of that, they chose to post about it. And it probably meant they checked it in on Untapped, and it probably meant they might have posted a picture of it in a Facebook group or on Reddit.
Or they're a cute person first time in it, and then they get like this like attachment because they're like, oh nice, I visited this place because my friend told me about it, and like the person like liked my stuff, said thanks for coming, any of that stuff. It makes you feel good, and makes you want to go back. So super valuable.
It's such a big part of it, that plus the taproom experience as well. So you got to have a good time there,
of course.
The staff got to be cool and da. But like that is a big part of all the breweries that I have a personal thing for. It's come from a lot from that as well. And just you feel like if I just like him, and then if you just get nothing back ever, it kind of feels like you're just chasing a girl or some shit. And you're like, you know what I mean?
That's a great analogy.
Or like you just get nothing. You're like, oh, you see those messages like, hey. And they didn't respond. Then, hey, you up? Hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Those ones where they're making fun of like these desperate dudes. You just kind of feel like that. You're like, well, fuck, I'm not going to tag these guys anymore. Like, they don't give a shit. They don't even care that I'm spending my money there. Well, fuck them. I'll go somewhere else. And people are petty, bro. Like, some people have loyalty. Some people don't. Like, you don't want to just give everyone a little bit of love. If they're going to the effort, then you should go to the effort, because that's what it's for. On social is for building the community and being social, and that's what we're trying to push through here.
And then, no, great points, 100%. And then, so on that side, let's get into just a little bit of the nitty gritty there. So I wanted to talk also about filming and photography, because what I thought was cool about John is that if you don't give a fuck, if you're not interested at all in filming, creating, doing any of that stuff, it is likely worth it. Instead of you like buying a camera and doing all this stuff and buying equipment, just hire someone and they'll produce beautiful photos and videos for you, and you don't have to think about it. And then you just make sure. And that's the approach that Ram also took. Because every Tuesday someone comes. I think he said every Tuesday, every Thursday, someone comes and they record, and it also makes him make sure that he has content for them to record, because he's paying someone, so it holds him accountable, kind of like having a trainer.
And they bring the staff around, and they riff. They have things planned, but they also have space for riff.
Yes,
for ideas on the spot. Maybe they'll be like, some staff will know that guy's coming in. They didn't say it beforehand. They'll be like, "Yo, how about we do something about this? I saw this on TikTok. It's trending right now. We could do it." Like that one where they're like, they give you the ID, and they're like, "No, you need to be 21." And you go, "Yeah, I was born in whatever year it was in the States." And then I saw.
And then they go to the van, they ride over,
and then the bartender's sitting there, and they just like existentially, fucked up from it, because they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so old." Those ones, things like that, and just bringing the team in and just
that's why it's awesome having your staff, like empowering your staff a little bit too. If they're excited and down, honestly, a lot of people on social, they know what's cool, so it's like worth it to pass the baton a little bit or give them a little bit of flexibility. You could still be the one to publish it and have the final say, but if they want to create something fun and they have a cool idea, worth leaning in.
And the quick example I gave last night of that was Duran Coffee. Obviously, we talked, had Chris on recently, and they used to be pretty chill with social, not really do too much. It was never like the most beautiful photos, or which they definitely, and Chris is aware, he's just making it work. But I noticed recently that they started posting these reels, and it was the staff in it, because I know most of them, and I was like, dude, these are sick, these are really good. And he's like, yeah, man, just let the staff kind of take over, like it looks like it's doing good, it's not going to hurt. I'm like, well, it was enough for me to notice that they were doing it, and I reached out to him for it. Yeah.
Okay.
So okay, cool. So that was it for this roles section.
Yes.
Yep.
So if we want to move on to content calendars, and I think you described this very nicely, of the value and importance. And I know for sure that John, I believe, was using the content calendars. I can't remember if Ram said that he was.
Yeah.
But just the value in them, in terms of like keeping you consistent and just always making it so that you're not last minute wondering what you should be posting.
Totally. So so that was the other end side of consistency and what you should be doing. I guess the other thing, the filming, photography, the editing, the content, writing captions we talked about, the scheduling content, responding every day, right? So those are the things for the role. So the content planning, you're going to want to keep everything organized. And when we were talking with John at the event, like dude had a full document there with all the answers written out. So I was like, this gentleman is an organized man. And a content calendar will keep you completely consistent and aligned in everything together. No, everything sort of organized in the best possible way. So just kind of like your brew calendar, same thing, but for content. So we sell one on our online store, but it's just a spreadsheet. You could just make one. Ours is like, it's got little formulas and all this type of stuff, but you'd be able to do that yourself and come up with something. That's probably the simplest way. You could use task management tools. We use something called Asana and Notion. We were on Asana, we're more on Notion now for that. I still use Asana for some things, but a content calendar, whatever it is, keeps you completely aligned to make sure you don't forget anything. So what else we have? And then you could also have like some of the other scheduling tools like Later or Planoly, Metrical, things like that. Meta Business Suite, so you can have all the things. That's where you'd schedule the post, and you can that can double as a content calendar. I know a lot of them allow you to add notes and things like that. So the idea, so say you have the Google Sheet, just for example, you'd have, what is it? It's end of March now, but say you should have April mostly done at this point and be looking into May. So you'd have May out there, you'd be like, all right.
Okay, you're doing the most, but sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like just
you're hard on them.
I bet, okay, if you look at someone like Bellwood who has a team, they're probably, I bet they're like 6 months out.
Yeah,
I bet they're not fucking around. But like at the very least, the reason why I say that, because most breweries are organized and they know when they have drops and when they have releases. So you'd put that in first. Where are all your drops? Where are all your events you need to promote? What are all the different key marketing things? You put that in and you can, okay, cool. So we're trying to do 3 to 4 posts a week. So we've got basically 2 posts a week with all that. All right, sweet. So we're going to do 2 other posts. So what else can you post about? And that's when you come in, which we're going to talk next about the content pillars. And then you can look at the different pillars and be able to assign them in the content calendar. So you can look at it at a glance. You can see the 4 posts a week that you got going. And you're like, all right, now I know what I need to do to create the content. So now what do I have to do to film? You can plan that out. Your shot list for the filming, your shot list for photos, for anything, any
Working
graphic
backwards.
design.
Exactly. You create a work back from it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when, from based on when you need to film and when you need to get it done by, if you've got anyone else helping you, maybe like Ram at Fairweather's example, where you've got a gentleman you bring in, he comes in every Tuesday and he knows when he has to deliver it. So just staying as organized as possible so that you're able to just make sure you don't miss anything. And it comes back to the thing we were talking about in the beginning about removing friction for the consumer, giving them everything they need to be a customer. Don't stop them from being a customer. Let them fucking give you money. That's really what we're saying. And then, so planning out, like Tiff said, like right now you should have most of April pretty much done. And if you're frisky, you can move into May, which I would suggest. I think for breweries it's easier because most breweries, like I know, for example, Sawdust, I think they work like 9 months out or so. And then Brewski, Derek was like, we just kind of plan it as we go. Like every couple of weeks.
So it depends.
Out.
Yeah.
So it depends really how you go. I would say most breweries are somewhere in between those two. And would have at least, if it's the end of March right now, you'd know what's coming out all of April and potentially all of May. So you're able to kind of plan ahead for that. So do whatever you can, but just so you know what's going on. So that would be why you need a content calendar. And then it comes into the content pillars and categories. So this is something that we did a video on our channel recently. So once again, the channel, High Season channel, is in the description, wherever you're watching or listening, and you can go check that out there. But we did one on content pillars because people just
And there's a free sheet that we have there.
And a content, yes.
Yeah, it's just a cheat sheet to help you create content pillars.
Should I add that to the...
Sure.
The actual
add the
video?
social media strategy one for sure. Add the content pillars and add a specific BAOS code for a free download of the content calendar.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the description, so I won't say it here because we don't know what it is
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. But we should do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pillars.
It's a content
videos.
calendar template that you can use or your team.
Yeah. So normally, and how much we charge for? Like $20 for it, but we can give it to you.
Yeah, it's 20 or 30. Yeah.
And we'll do
we'll hook up the
free.
free.
There you go. We did the same thing at the
OCB. Yeah.
BOS code for this one. Write it down so I don't forget.
Perfect.
For the content.
And as you do that, then I'll move into content pillars. So when we're talking about content pillars and categories, these are the foundation of your content and all the efforts that you're making. And the reason that they matter so much is because they help to make sure that everything that you're posting actually has a purpose and an intention behind it and ladders back up to a goal that you have. That's one important part of it. But two, it also helps you not sit in front of a post or sit in front of your calendar or have a phone in your hand and just be like, oh, what should I capture? What do I talk about? I don't know what to talk about. So content pillars or categories, which is really just the topics that you're going to speak about, are so important. And they really should go beyond like, hey, here's our beer and drink this beer. Like releases and just being too promotionally heavy is not really going to help when we're talking about social media growth here, right? And like how to increase your awareness on the platforms. So we're going to give some examples of content pillars or categories that we think would make the most sense for a brewery. And of course, there's things that could expand beyond this. But a really easy one that's super underutilized is beer education. So really thinking about like how you can educate people on how craft beer is made, how you make beer, and what that serves to do is not only give you something that's interesting and educational to talk about that gets people to save it a little bit more, which helps you in the algorithm. If they save that or share that, if it's something interesting that they didn't know about. Whenever you teach somebody something, there's 3 pillars to good content always. It educates, it inspires, or it entertains. Beer education is an easy dub. And Zenin, I think, is such a cool example of serialized content around education. So it's not specifically beer education because they're a glassware company. But they have like these Friday trivias, and like I watch them. I think they're really interesting. Like I like them, I engage with them, I comment on them,
like
and I
on
love.
LinkedIn,
I actually seen it on LinkedIn first, and then it's cross-posted as it should to other platforms. But like I love what they do, and the teams involved too, which I think is really cool as well. They've kind of built like
characters,
around it, which I think is super super cool. But that's an example of something where if you do commit and say like, oh, I'm going to do a series around an education series, that just means every Friday, for example, they have a content slotted in that you're going to post, which means you always have, at the worst case scenario, 1 post every week. and likely 2 because one will already either be a beer drop, which means you're going to be way more consistent because no matter what, you have 2 pieces of content that comes out every single week.
Yep.
So that's a really good pillar or category to think about introducing, and Treehouse on YouTube really excels in that category. So if you even want like content ideas, that's a good place to kind of just check out to see what they're doing on the beer education front, because that's like for sure if we owned a brewery, if we had $1 million to open something and wanted all the love and heartache that comes with it, that would be one of the social strategies that we would definitely implement, is like a batch created beer education series, which means if we weren't filming it, we would have someone come in and we would have our a head brewer sit down and then create, you know, 8 videos, so that way we don't even need to worry about it again for 2 months. Just 8 to less than 3-minute videos. Then we consider behind the scenes content. Of course, that's like an easy one to always make sure that you have. So if that's going to be brew days, so if you decide that every time you brew, you're just going to put your phone on a tripod in the corner and record it, do it as a time lapse or whatever it might be, record the moments that you think make the most sense, and then obviously do some close-ups if you can. You have a reel right there done for you now immediately. Not only do you have a reel, you have a story done for you too. We could talk about how to turn one piece of content into multiple pieces later, but that's an example of behind the scenes content, showing off your team, fun moments, things like that in real time that happens, the canning line. That's all the behind the scenes stuff. People want to see it. And the more you educate people and showcase what goes on behind the scenes, the more they understand why the cost of craft beer is more than the cost of other beer, because you can see if someone's telling you about ingredients that they're using, things like this, it means a lot more and puts more into context. And a lot of people don't understand what it takes to build anything across the board in a lot of areas. That's why people will tell you not to create a business in the first place, because they project their own. Anyways, that's another conversation.
We were talking about that the other day.
We were talking about it the other day, but like people have no idea what it takes to do what you're doing, and what you're doing is more valuable and warrants a higher price point. So it's just educating people around why that price point exists and showing people the behind the scenes. Also, when I see people and employees, and I know that when I buy a beer, it's helping contribute to more people having jobs, all that stuff. It's just so valuable from so many perspectives. And then, so behind the scenes content. Another pillar or category of content could be like local love. So anyone that you're partnering with, like we mentioned the Hamilton, how great they are with that. Guelph is so good with that. So any of these things in your community that you're doing, tap takeovers, of course, that should be done in stories and in feed. If you're participating in market, anything offsite, of course, local partnerships, all that stuff. That's another content pillar or category you would have. Then, of course, if some fun things that you could add in are like beer pairings and recipes. So if there's anything like with your chef in the kitchen, if you have a kitchen inside your tap room or whatever attached to your tap room, that's a really cool way to speak a little bit more about what they do and collaborate with them as well. Maybe that chef does some content pieces too, or just says, hey, this is the menu. I think Bellwoods is really good at showcasing what the food is going to be. I don't think they put their chef really, but at least like the food and talking about that in a really cool way, and like maybe recommending beer sometimes that makes sense for it. And then user generated content. So that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, where Craig was saying, like, you know, you're tagging breweries and people are reposting you. That's user generated content. It's any person who's frequenting your establishment or purchasing your product and posting about it online. They've created content for you. So especially if it's reels or anything like that, that is like an easy dub, because you could just repost that piece of content. All you do is ask them, and you can repost it in stories, but even better in feed. If you really like it, then you've given yourself another post. For one of our clients, is a hotel brand.
You as a collaborator.
They could also do that,
after the fact, potentially.
Exactly. So yes, they can. So like one of our clients, they're a hotel brand. We did every Friday we would do like every end of the month, a UGC roundup of like people in different hotels and stuff like that. It's just a good vibe. And then beer releases, again, Town is such a good example of this, so go check it out. Like, it's not always Jeff, it's like different. Sometimes it's like a brewer, sometimes it's like, tap room managers, things like that. But it's cool to just see someone talk about the beer. So of course that's going to be a category that you'll have. It just shouldn't be the single category.
No, I thought of another great example, which is a nice quick segue into the next beer, is True History. So Adam writes it from his perspective, and it's always really funny.
Nice.
And it's never real. It's just always photos, usually a carousel. And he's just like self-deprecating, funny, ridiculous. It's and explaining the history behind it in like really chill way. And it's like you associate that with the brand. And I feel like that's like another cool approach without like they're in the photos most of the time. Sometimes they post videos. Now I'm thinking about it, but for the beer release, it's rare. It's mostly like that. So there's different ways. There's more like the polished way that Town does it, and the more kind of like DIY that True History does, and they're both very effective, I think.
Awesome. So love that. And then a tip for this also is like, if we're thinking about, okay, great, I've created my categories now. And again, this is all in the consistency we're talking about, right? That means you get to say, okay, every Monday I do Craft Beer 101. On Tuesdays, I do new drops. On Wednesday, I do Brew Day behind the scenes. On Thursday, I do a community feature. On Friday, maybe I don't even have to post. And again, you don't even need to post this many times. We're just already giving you 4 posts of what this could look like in rotation. But on Friday, maybe I do a roundup of all my favorite photos from people who posted our beer, because that's going to encourage more people to want to post our beer, because they'll get an opportunity to be showcased on our feed. And people love to hear their name, and people love to see their work, shared. This is straight up. That's just a fact.
Love to hear their name. That's pretty funny when you say it like that.
It's true. Okay, perfect.
Sorry, I thought I'd do this one. And shouts to Zenith from the Glassware too.
Maybe you should point the glass towards me then.
Oh, that way. I say you go.
Yeah. Sweet.
See, like the fake laughs, guys? That's our other secret.
Perfect.
Are you doing that? Fake laughs?
Yeah,
Is our
I was
plug.
at Sierra Nevada. There was a group of girls who were like doing a bachelorette, and they were like, "Hey, can you take photos of us?" And I was like, "Okay, fake laughs. Come on, guys. We can't just be doing regular smiles. We got to make it a moment." It was very funny. They were like, "Oh my gosh," and they were like, "Ha ha ha!" Like immediately. It was very cute. Yeah, it was very very cute. They understood the assignment nicely.
Yes.
So
That's
again,
cute.
when we're talking about staying consistent, which is really this part of it, is really just having the systems and tools in place, and then batch creating content when you can, but leaving space and looking around for those behind the scenes moments that you can add to stories or compile into a reel at another time. So then I want to talk about content. So when we're talking about our 4 C's of social media growth, we were also talking about content quality. So let's talk about tools as part of that as well. So when we're talking about content quality, something that's super important to understand as well is that this is not just like, oh, you need to have this like super high produced Christopher Nolan like short form video or something. That's not the point. The point is just that the visuals look like you put time and effort into them, and you respected that people deserve and made sure that people should look at the content. Like it looks like you put effort into it. Doesn't need to be highly produced. It just needs to have the fundamentals of good content, which is usually good lighting, it's framed well, and it's high resolution, as in like it's above 1080p, 4K preferably even. And then, so that's visual side of things. And then the value side. And the value side is like, you've answered, we always tell our clients, like, what's in it for me? So like, if I'm going to watch this, what am I getting out of it? And am I learning something? Are you inspiring me in some way? Are you entertaining me in some way? But what am I getting out of it? And that's why we talk about storytelling, because that's a good way to like really enhance the content. So visuals and value, when you're thinking about the content that you're sharing, think about how you are making sure that you're prioritizing content that should be enjoyed. And I think what's great about, and again, I'll use Bellwoods as an example, is that they do a really good job of mixing high quality in terms of like visually high quality, high produced content with lo-fi content and organic content, because each thing has its moment, right? Like if something's behind the scenes or something's fun or should feel organic, like walking up to a brewer just asking a question, and walking up to the marketing person asking a question, walking up to the accountant, things like that, that should feel organic. That's true to the platform. So you don't need, something that's super highly produced, but maybe if it's your event recap, that's something that you might want to have somebody come in and record. So really just understanding when it makes the most sense. But so much of social can be real life, real moments, and like lo-fi, and doesn't need to be super highly produced. Another thing when we're talking about just content is just like prioritizing video if you can. Carousels do perform well, but trying not to use those single images again. If you are doing video, always caption your videos. You need to optimize for sound off. Most, above 50% of people consume video content with the sound off. So if you don't have captions on, you take the risk of somebody just scrolling by because they don't get to watch it, which happens a lot to me, especially even on stories where I'm like, damn it, I would have liked to see what you said. Now I clicked it won't get served to me again, and now I won't know because I watch a lot of stuff with the sound off because I'm usually doing something else. And again, you don't need fancy lighting equipment. Your phone is completely fine, especially if we're thinking about like brew days and things like that are happening in the brewery, and setting it up. Just having your phone on the tripod, $20 on Amazon for a tripod it'll cover you very, very nicely.
Yeah.
And then really deciding on the tools in your arsenal that you're going to lock in on. So, for example, graphic design wise, Canva is an amazing tool. I believe Ram's a little bit more advanced then, because I think he was using Illustrator or Photoshop.
I think
he was a bit fancier.
Because I think he does the designs. Yeah. His wife does the actual like what's the word? I don't know if it's painting, but whatever the back, like whatever method she uses for the backgrounds, and then he does all the graphic design where he's putting the title in and all that type of stuff. Yeah.
So, but Canva, so user friendly. Everyone can use it. And in the end, it's like you really don't need that many graphics a lot of the time. Especially like you want to overflyer your feed, over promo your feed, so it should be used like generally sparingly anyways.
Also, the tip on the flyer, if you got a flyer, that happened a lot to us when we were traveling. Like you go to either a cafe, more breweries, and I want to know what their new beers are. And they just got flyers to like trivia nights and stuff. I'm like, bro, I don't give a fuck. I want to know when the beers
that's important,
came out.
But when it's just taking up the whole feed, it just yells at you. You go to the feed, and all you see is a bunch of text and graphics. You don't see anything except text and graphics, and it's like, we want the liquid, so that's the first thing we want to see.
And then the events are cool, but you promote the events by a photo, then you swipe to the flyer. It's no problem putting the flyer in slide 2 onwards, just not as the lead. And like Tiff said, if you go to like typically nightclubs are the worst, and it just feels like they're yelling at you. It's like you're looking in the direct mail in your fucking mailbox. Like it's not appealing to anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to think of what information people want. They want to know when trivia is. Sweet. So then have a photo of the host. Maybe make sure you've got someone there taking photos every week, so that you've got fresh photos of them in different clothes doing the trivia, or a quick clip of it, or something like a little reel, like a 10-second thing. If it's funny, if there's something funny that you're able to film, like just a different way to promote rather than that. So I just wanted to note that, because that was a big pet peeve that I noticed over 6 weeks away and going to breweries every week.
Yeah.
And trying to find new stuff. It was way too common. There was honestly some that I was just like, I'm not even gonna try here.
Yeah. So again, think of just the consumer and what will appeal most to them.
Yeah.
So video editing apps that are really great: CapCut, InShot. Instagram's gonna have a new editing app that's coming out next month. It should be so in April.
Yes.
It got pushed back a few times, so I'm not sure, but this is their answer to CapCut, like a TikTok competitor. It's called Edits, exactly. Longer form video, Descript is great for this. Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, any of those apps are great for editing long form video. Captioning your video, Submagic is an app that we use. Maybe you put that in the description box below too.
Yeah.
The link to that app's great, and they do offer some minor editing as well, very similar to Descript in that way. And then we have the Lightroom for photo editing is a great one as well that you can leverage.
Yes.
Then, of course...
And there's a free app on your phone as well.
Yes, and it's a free app on your phone.
But it's a free
all the BAOS photos that you see, they're Lightroom presets. What's great about Lightroom is that you can create a preset and then you just apply that to all your photos, which helps you with consistency. Especially if you're not like a photographer and you don't want to spend time tweaking everything. It's just really beneficial. And I'm sure that's what a ton of real professional photographers do anyways.
I think they do, for sure. Tiff made them for me. I have one for my selfies and one for BOS stuff. And I just use those and tweak them if need be. But they apply like 90% of the time. I don't even touch them anymore. I think it just looks good enough. It's fine.
Yeah, nice.
It just makes it easier
That's
rather
the goal.
than me having
Make it easy
to
and simple.
Before those presets, I think I was using another app to edit. I can't remember what, but I remember you had to like manually do it all.
Yeah.
I just knew where it went every time. I knew which ones to do, but it was like took so much longer.
Yeah.
Now it's just like tap, yep, it's good. Or sometimes now let's bring the exposure down a bit. Or
There you go.
like that.
See?
It's like tiny little tweaks.
Exactly. And then again, if any of this sounds annoying to you, just hire a photographer, a videographer if you can. Then another plug is hiring an actual content creator, so somebody who creates social first content. So that's like the people that you see who make reels and all that stuff. A lot of them actually will do content for brands as well, for businesses as well. So it's like an influencer type of person is what you're looking for in that way. And there are some deals and arrangements you could probably make with each other. And even better if they're in your category and can promote the content for you.
Yeah, if they're fans of beer, I think that would be a little better. Because one, they'll understand it more, and two, they might be willing to do more exchanges.
Exactly.
And they'll just and they'll just be more excited about it because they care about the product rather than if it's just some shit they don't care about.
Yeah. But if it's you, honestly, managing everything, just think about just keeping an eye out for things that are just content opportunities that you could just throw up. So just small things that you would record that you can throw up in stories and things like that, or throw up in, not actually throw up, but you know, that you can publish to like your platform. So just being more mindful of content opportunities. And again, that's like one story that would, or it'd be a day that would put you in a good place with content, in addition to 2 to 3 in-feed posts, for sure.
Yes.
Weekly.
And the stories can be like off the cuff, kind of where you don't have to always pre-plan them. Some people do, and maybe you should plan some, like maybe have some graphics ready, like 9x16 graphics and shit, so you can like promote things like professionally, particularly if there's an event or something that you want to post about or whatever, or at least you've got some photos, you know where you want to add the text using Instagram's native text. But that can be a little more chill, I guess I'm saying.
Exactly.
With stories, you don't have to stress yourself as much, because like Tiff said, the example, you do a little sweep of the tap room, put some music underneath it, and have text on there like, hey, food truck here, and just any information.
Exactly. And then one thing that's super underutilized when it comes to content creation is just recording something once and then using it for that one thing and never looking at it again. So repurposing content is so huge and will save so much time, especially when you're considering all the other things that you need to do. So an example of this would be, as a brewer, putting up your phone in the corner of the, well, depending on where, you know, how things are lined up, wherever your phone would make the most sense, on a tripod, and recording brew day and moments of brew day, and just saying like every Tuesday or every whatever day that is of the week that I brew, I'm going to record that process. And those snippets that you record that day would be a set of stories. So now you have your stories for that day. And then when we think about, okay, now I have a set of stories, what could those snippets of videos also be? That would be a reel. So that's a second piece of content. So you have your first set of piece of content from one moment that you utilized, or one, you know, day, into a set of stories. Then the next day, or on Thursday, so what I would do, for example, Tuesday, you know, I brewed that day. Those are a set of stories for that day. Hey guys, check out what's going on. Super exciting. Then again, we post that as a reel, because not everybody sees the content on every single surface. I personally watch stories way more than I consume any content in feed, for example. So there are a lot of people who actually only engage with certain parts of the app and certain surfaces of the app. So you can hit someone in the stories, then you can reuse that content by just throwing some music on it and then making sure that it matches and making that a reel. You don't even need to talk to the camera. It could just be literally, and this is a very popular content type, is just a compilation of moments that syncs with music. You could do that directly in the Instagram app. Their editing app is getting better, but you could also look at doing this in something like CapCut. But there's your second piece of content. Now you have an Instagram reel. And then a third piece of content, again from this one video that you have, could be a carousel on the release day. So that could look like you take snippets of that moment again, you have your picture of the beer, you show the behind the scenes of it getting brewed, maybe you also have some clips in there from canning day, and now you've taken one piece of content and you've made it into 3 different posts. So leveraging the content you create for multiple opportunities saves you so much time. So you're not always creating from net new. Like everything doesn't have to be new. Like really extend the content when you can. So that's a huge missed opportunity, I would say, that I see often.
Big time.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Anything to touch on that side further?
Not particularly, just reiterating. Just try and always be capturing stuff. Always think for that, because you never know when things could happen. You could capture it for later and be able to build it in. So like if you are the person who's responsible for social in the team, whether, you know, you've got other responsibilities, you probably do, but just always try and keep it in the back of your mind and just try and capture stuff. And then if you think about how you can leverage it for multiple occasions. If you're
the taproom manager and you're cleaning the lines, it's just like, why? That's a
a
piece of content. Why we clean our lines? Why it's important. And how like, often hey, did you know when you go to nasty bars that they don't even clean their tap lines for, you know what I mean? You can, you know, it's true. So it's like, these are things. Well, here's why we clean ours, or, you know, things like that. And all you need to do is film it, and you can do it as a voiceover.
There you go.
You don't even need to talk to the camera at the moment, because we also understand and respect that not everybody's comfortable speaking directly to cam. So that could be a voiceover moment.
There's one bar in, I want to say like a beer bar in like, no, you're fine. You're good. Like Chicago or something. And multiple people had sent me video. They're basically doing like explaining Luca pours and doing side by side. Cool. This is what it is. Here's how you do this. And it's just like, it's almost like someone's just filming. You only see hands and a voiceover, and that's it. And then I realized it was a bar. I thought it was just like a creator account, but it was a bar.
Nice.
And they're explaining all the different
That's
things
cool.
about different pours, and I think different
Cafes
beers
are
and
great with that too.
They are. With,
Well, there's some cafes who are like really killing it on the
Explaining.
content side. Yeah.
and it's kind of like it comes back to just education. That's what we did for social media with High Season. We were like, well, we could just talk about our clients and the shit that we're doing, or we could teach stuff, and then the teaching has led to a lot for us.
More opportunities.
So I feel like every business could consider doing that if it's of interest. It's not of interest to everybody, so I do understand. So if it's good if you're into it, sweet. If not, then looking for something else. But that's just one
an
thing,
opportunity.
Yeah,
Exactly. And then the again, so we talked about the 4 C's of social media growth: consistency, content quality, clarity, and community. We covered consistency and content quality. Clarity, not going to dive really. I think it's clear who your audience is. So that's really just knowing who your audience is, who you're speaking to, so you create content for them. You already know you're looking for beer drinkers and hopefully soon to be beer drinkers. So
You
not
hit
going to
the
say much of
elementary
that.
schools.
Gotta hit-
Get
Let's
them
get them
young.
while they're young. Hey, why not? And then on the community side of things, we did really touch on that. That's collaborating. Whenever you collab, do them as a collab post. Seek out opportunities with other businesses. Even if you're just going as your own self, as a personal brewer without an ulterior motive, there's a cafe that you go to every day. It's worth to just shout that cafe out. Because
Even
they're
just
going
the
to
stories.
repost you to their audience too, and then in the end, someone in their audience is going to find you, just how we follow James Waldron. Just how I keep calling him James, like he's like such a formal name. I know. I'm like, I think his name is actually Jamie. I just like to I like to formalize. I have this thing with formalizing people's names, but Jamie, just like how Jay Waldron Butchers posted that cafe, and then we ended up there the next day, for example.
Yes.
And then, so obviously, and then leverage UGC when you can. So a few other areas. So that's really the main part of when we're talking about the social media growth. And then there were just some other opportunities I wanted to bring up in this conversation too.
Yeah.
So AI and automation tools. So the opportunity to use that, because that's something else we talked about in the session with the guys. And I don't believe anyone was using any AI yet.
Not from memory. That was 6-ish months ago. About that. So like 5-6 months. So it's a lot's even changed in that time.
But
I imagine more people are using it now. So like ChatGPT.
Exactly. Like, don't feel like you're cheating or doing something weird. Like, we all only have so much time. We need to be as efficient as possible, especially as business owners who have other things that we're doing. So if it makes sense to help to tell ChatGPT, for example, hey, I own a brewery in Toronto. I want to create a content calendar. These are the pillars that I've decided. It's going to be beer education. I'm going to do beer drop. I'm going to do an employee spotlight and whatever it might be. So you tell ChatGPT what you want to do, create the content calendar for me, and ChatGPT will, including topics, ChatGPT will spit that out for you. Yeah. We also have a how to use ChatGPT guide. I'm just throwing so many things out that might be good for the description too. But how to use ChatGPT to plan your content. And honestly, that can help you out. It's live now. And then obviously you can use it to brainstorm posts in general if you're ever stuck on time. It's just worth having that support from AI when you can. Obviously, it'll never replace us as humans. I hope that's the goal. If anything, actually, singularity is what happens. Don't we merge into one? Actually,
according to Ray
exactly.
Kurzweil.
And it's on track. The timeline's working.
If I'm not mistaken.
So
he said we're on track.
Yes. So you still want to weave in your own personal stories, tasting notes, all of that stuff. That's you that has to do that. But definitely having it assist you is super key. And then of course AI can help you with like coming up with like beer names if you need. But that is a real creative part. So I understand people don't want to do that. But generating labels potentially can help you there too. I think you did it for the TMF cover. You used AI for the TMF cover.
For a mixtape cover within Canva. I know for one of our collabs for the anniversary, they used the marketing dude used ChatGPT for an idea to then show the designer. The designer did it better.
Awesome.
And we did use it. One of our themes, which I won't say yet because we're going to slowly announce everything. For the collabs, I was like, I asked ChatGPT because Nate did, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But he might not have asked it I think I got better answers out of it because it's all about the prompts. But I was able to generate, and they gave me a bunch of ideas.
Yeah, nice.
For that, and I was able to there was just things. It was almost more of a jog my memory as opposed to, because they're Australian words and stuff like that. So as opposed to that, so
you would have the Aussie prompts, of course. Yeah.
And I hadn't really done it before, but I asked it a good question, I think, and I was able to find better information on ChatGPT than I was on Google to give me inspiration. Like just of course, and I remember some sayings and little things that I wanted to incorporate.
Beautiful.
So that was super helpful. So you can use it. The idea, what we always say about ChatGPT and AI is use it as your assistant, but don't make it do it for you.
Exactly.
In the sense of, don't let it write your captions. You have to do it, or people are going to know that the AI wrote it. It's so obvious. We can already tell. It's like a bullshit detector that we have.
Yeah.
So you can get it to write it and then tweak it, sure, or you can get it to give you ideas and then you just flesh it out a bit more, whatever works. And the same thing, just brainstorming and ideas and to get things going. I think it's like kind of the perfect companion.
Great tool. And then another way to use automation is ManyChat. So I don't know if you also want to speak to that a little bit.
Sure.
Because that's just a super beneficial tool to use to automate sales and engagement. Yeah.
Yes. Now, there might be particulars about craft beer or about alcohol that we don't know that you can and can't use it. But essentially, you've probably seen it before where people in a caption or in the video or whatever itself say, comment the word beer and I'll send you the link to the new drop. So then people will comment, then they'll get an automated response, and then they'll get a DM with a link to that specific thing. So the main software that we use is called ManyChat. It's a approved Meta partner, so they don't it doesn't get your account fucked up. It's all above board. They are killing it. They changed the game for our business. We use it for BAOS. Most people, I think, and we said this last night, that I think I need to put it at the top of the caption as opposed to it's in the last
Just
thing.
so people see it immediately. Yeah.
Just so people see it immediately so they know what to do and then write it. So I think I might just move it up underneath the
Nice.
title and I'll just put it under there
Beautiful.
moving forward for that reason, because people don't typically use it. But sometimes we go in ourselves from other accounts and comment it so that people can see that it's happening.
Yeah,
and
that's
know
a good
that,
way, is just to do it so they're like, oh, you can do that to receive something. Yeah.
I'll just put the episode number, comment 178 or whatever. And then they'll just put 178 and boom. And then I write the thing. Oh, hey, you need the link? Check your DM. And then in the DM. So it's just like a really cool thing. So I don't know if you can use it to send a link to buy alcohol, but you could do it for tickets. You could do it for merch. You could do it for food.
You think you can't do a link to your shop? Maybe.
You might be able to do a link to the shop, but I think there might... You have to check in your individual state, province, city, whatever, what the rules are. But either way, it's fantastic, and it takes away that manual side. It makes it quick, and it also gives you engagement on the post. So every time they comment, the automated response kicks in. So that's 2 comments plus a DM. And when you get people in your DMs, they get fed your stories more and they get fed your posts more. And the more you talk to them, as you probably noticed, as I'm saying this, think about it. Whoever you talk to more in your DMs on Instagram, that's whose posts you see and that's who you see in stories all the time. And you keep going and you create sort of a bit of a relationship and an affiliation in the algorithm with those people. So they'll keep being fed your stuff the more they're in your DMs. So there's a lot of benefits to using something like ManyChat. There is a free version. There's a paid version. Depends on how you use it. We use the free one for BOS, and it's completely fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Maybe drop that link too to ManyChat.
ManyChat.
Beautiful.
Good call.
And then now
So
we
many
just
links.
want to quickly touch on resource rich.
Yeah,
is
right?
The goal here for this one. It's just like now that we're filming, there's the tariff conversation happening overall, cross-border tensions and such. And again, no matter what you think politically, it is a good marketing opportunity to lean into that drink local, support local narrative. So really, if you're somebody who, again, if you're working with local suppliers, if you're using Canadian malts or hop growers, any of these things, that's definitely something that you want to highlight and promote and talk about. People want to support local, and I guess we're a bit unique in a unique situation where this has been an MO of ours, like a motivation for a very long time. We just love local stuff. We want to see the people we like shopping local. And I think yesterday we discovered that it ended up happening, or we think the precipice of this was Vermont.
Vermont.
Because we It was like one time that we were at Hotel Tabaret that used to be owned by Giles.
P.S. Giles.
Hey, Giles, always a fantastic young man. That was owned by Giles, and we had a burger that he had, and I think that was also like, it was because it was like medium, and you couldn't do medium burgers.
Medium rare burgers.
Yeah, it was just fantastic. And he's
So
like,
we're
yeah,
like,
it's
what?
from like the cow on the farm over there, like 5 miles down the road.
Yeah, Bob runs it.
And I was like, what the fuck? That's coming from right down there. And he's like, yeah, and I trade him eggs or something like that. There was like a trade and stuff going on.
gives
And we
him
were
beer
like,
for eggs
oh,
or something,
beer for eggs. Yeah, they had that going on. And I was like, that is incredible. Just felt so good to know like that's how local something was.
Although we went
that's a
to
selling piece
Farmhouse
for
Tap and
people.
Grill.
Then Farmhouse Tap and Grill, all the cheese, everything was just all local.
Cheese, bread.
That
like
is a
meats
key selling
on
proposition.
Chalkboards in the bar.
Exactly.
/ restaurant. Sorry.
Exactly.
It's
No.
really important to see
So-
like how much of an impact, and that would have been 2017.
Exactly. I think it really
2016,
changed who we are, and it really made us. And then beer, then again, helped that because you're talking to people again. Everyone buys into people, so we talk to brewers, and then we're like, "Oh my gosh, this person's so cool! Of course, we want to buy from them." And it creates that. But you can give people that opportunity who don't sit and talk with you in a podcast to feel that same way, and it's just motivating them and speaking to the fact that you are Canadian when you're using other Canadian products, or if you're partnering with other Canadian distilleries, cideries. Is this cideries or like cideries?
I think that's the French one, but
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of
cideries
saying.
is
Yeah,
like
okay.
How we would say it here.
Farmers, brewers, anything, other breweries, cafes, anything that you're doing, local roasters. Really emphasize that because people are really buying in. I'm in like this massive Reddit subreddit that's all about like shop Canada.
The Buy Canadian one.
Yeah, the Buy
Yeah,
Canadian, it's
Buy
huge.
Canadian, yeah.
It's just blowing up. It's so because people are so motivated, so capitalize on that motivation. You might as well. So if you're using 100% Ontario hops, then talk about that for sure. And then maybe it's even worth creating beers with that in mind, just in general, for another additional marketing opportunity and then multi-collab opportunity as well.
Yeah.
And again, that's the same thing. And the reason I really am emphasizing this is because if you are doing these things, you can generally anticipate or estimate that the people who like shopping local and are motivated traditionally are already going to gravitate towards you if you just talk about it a bit more. But then there's already this new wave of people who are super motivated to buy from Canadian producers. So
More than
capitalize
ever.
on that. Yeah.
A quick example I just pulled up here, that True History, since we're drinking their beer, just finished phenomenal. I didn't even say it's the dark Czech lager, the Tamave. It's so good. I had it on tap at the Brain recently, so you didn't get to try it.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
I was like,
I
oh.
would love to try that.
Yeah, sorry. I yammed that quick.
okay, that's
We'll get some more because we need to go. They dropped something, when was this? February 7th, so about a month ago, the Canadian Pilsner Project, where they've basically going to create a recipe that uses all local hops, malt, barley, yeast, hops, malt, water, of course, water, hops, malt, and yeast, and make a pilsner, and the breweries can sign up and do it. So something similar to like kind of Black is Beautiful, but then there'll be more of a specific recipe that they'll do, and that was inspired by the tariff because
Nice,
this
I
dropped
see it. It's
February
cool.
7th, right?
Yeah, great, perfect.
Yeah, so I want to shout that out. We're gonna chat to them about this soon because it was a very cool idea, and they're calling it like a Canadian style pilsner, and being in the way that once again, there's just we were talking about the way the brand voice and the way Adam writes here is super cool. And
I
it's
love it
always-
because
it's like
I'm mentally
quirky.
prepared for no one to respond to this.
Yeah.
That's what I was just looking at. And I was like,
That's what I'm saying. See, he's like
Yeah, I love
self-deprecating
that.
and he's like a smart ass and he's
Yeah,
funny.
I love
like
that.
I don't know. I really appreciate it. And I want to support the fuck out of them for this. I think this is super dope. So big shouts
perfect.
to Adam and Matt and
Yeah.
the team there for doing this.
Awesome idea. That's great.
It taps into that Canadian pride that should always be there and has been there and is
Mm-hmm.
more so in other places. We found it a lot more in Quebec. So this seemed to have generated that in the rest of the country for the most part. And this is a concrete example of how you can execute publicly doing that. It's very
Love
cool.
that. Love that.
Love it.
So on that side, of course, drink local, support local. We already all do it, probably listening to this, but yes, let people know more about why they should. And then a small note again, also on Gen Z, I just wanted to talk about the new wave of drinkers.
Yes.
Because they are drinking less than ever before. So Gen Z, they care less about drinking. Apparently there's there's some type of relation happening here where it feels like drinking is what your father did, your mom did. It's like old people, an old person activity. They're more focused on cannabis.
I can see that.
So we have to
Cannabis
probably
and,
shift that association to old brands, perhaps. Like your parents drank old fashion beer, like VB or
Yellow
whatever it
fizzy
might be,
water,
yellow
yeah.
fizzy water. We are making, and again, this is what comes back to the storytelling. Gen Z, no, they care about the origin story. They care about the values and sustainability behind the companies that they shop with. They're the reason why influencers did so well as well, because they started buying into and really caring about the people and trusting the people over trusting brands and corporations. And the dissonance around corporations and all that is even just increasing, if anything. But yes, utilize that to really talk about why your product is better, why it matters, why it's craft. The craft part matters, and Gen Z is shown to be resonating with that. And they care about like the experience around the products too. So that's something to consider. So really talking about your sourcing, your sustainability, your inclusion, any of these things are going to be super important. And this is again why we talked about TikTok being like a great place to also tell those types of stories as well. So Reels is going to be great for that because you can just cross post to Reels and TikTok. And then really seeing if there's ways to invite them into the process a little bit of certain things. So if it's like, what's my beer name? Like, hey, we're brewing this. Like, what do you think the beer name should be? And then having them kind of vote in a stories poll, for example. And this goes for like, millennials will be interested as well. Gen X and above will be interested as well. But it's just ways to bring people and make them feel like your brand it's not just
It's in the now.
It's in the now, and it's a company that you want to like support and be a part of. Like you feel a part of the process. So that's like another opportunity to just get them involved. Because if you look, in the end, there's always secrets and messages and everything to pull from what large brands are doing well, especially these large founder-led, influencer-led brands. And there's a reason why they're killing. It's a reason why someone like Kylie Jenner did so well in cosmetics. She wasn't a scientist in cosmetics at all. It was because she was the person at the forefront and people buy into people. Yeah. So she ended up killing because they wanted what she had because they trusted her. So it's like putting yourself or your employees or your people at the front of the content, and then also showcasing why your product is different from what their parents drank is going to be super, super valuable. And you could just do that through education, do that through showing like behind the scenes content, and then maybe involving them with some engagement stickers and things like that.
Or even involving like, Gen Z staff who might be able to like help you.
They'll probably help you tap the trends. Yes, exactly.
I imagine most brewery owners are not 27 or whatever. Like, yeah, you're going to be a little older, and even if you don't get it yourself, like it's funny being around Dan. So Dan's Tiff's cousin who works for High Season, and he's been on the pod before, and on the videos. Like he's 27, so it's always like funny to get his perspective. Yeah. We always are. He does like the old stuff as well, but then we give each other shit. And it's a lot. It's like funny, but it's like interesting always to get him and his girlfriend's perspective. She's a couple years younger than him as well, and like even Tiff was saying, just talking to her over Christmas and the amount of things you learned about the way
she just consumes content. Like I found out that she watches SNL on TikTok in snippets.
Yeah, as opposed to watching
to watching it on the. Yeah, I was like, oh, fascinating. Because it's just like we don't.
They behave completely different
that way. It's just so different
than we would imagine. Yeah, and they have different perspectives. These two are, I think, more examples that are closer to us because they're older Gen Z, and two, they like a lot of the same things. They like third wave coffee. They do drink, but their approach is a little different. I don't think part of that is
mostly us. I think we're very.
I think it's like us when they're hanging out with us. They're like, we're hanging out with Tiff and C. We're drinking.
Yeah, we're drinking, and they like the coffee and all that. And I think it's because we were showing them all that stuff too.
Right,
but so Montreal helps people in that way.
They were both living in Montreal. Yeah. So like either way, there's different levels. But if you've got people around that can sort of guide you as well, because you don't want to sound like a fucking old person trying to be cool and young. You know that meme of. Steve Buscemi was like, "Hey kids."
Oh, like I was thinking of that in my head. Yeah, it's him. Yeah. And I think like Grandpa Simpson or something. Yeah, like that too. Has stuff like that too. But yeah,
totally. And it's just like it's not. You don't want to be that as the brand. So you don't want to like inauthentically. You want to make them feel like, hey, I can feel welcome here. This is not an old people place.
Yeah.
But you don't want to feel like it's an old person trying to appeal to a 27-year-old because that's whack as fuck. So there's a fine line you need to work and you walk and if you've got people who can help you get there authentically, that's better. Maybe you are older and cooler and you're all good to go. So just like know yourself and don't pretend because you're better to get it right than look silly.
100%.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to consider for breweries, being that Gen Z are going to be obviously the ones.
It's the next one. It's just like keeping keeping market sustainability and making sure that we're hitting each demographic as they grow, and so super important. And then hitting them now, because why not? It's the same thing. If you get someone in on a car, brand at the beginning, they're more likely to
True.
keep purchasing that car brand. So
And there wasn't, being the millennials, there wasn't breweries like that around
No.
when we were 21
Yeah.
or whatever the fuck. Like, I was in my well into my 30s when I discovered craft beer
Yeah.
properly. Actually, well, the very, very late 29, 30, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, as far as like, that was in 2011. So
Mm-hmm.
that was when there was fuck all breweries around, and there was like none. I have a very soft spot for Mill Street and for BAOS because they
Yeah.
were really big, and Wellington because they were
Mhm.
really big back in the day for me. But aside from that, there could be a whole bunch. There could have been people who turned, 21 and then Third Moon were in year 2 and they
Yeah.
were like, oh, fuck, I love these guys. This is my spot. I love it. It's so metal. It's like sick. They're fun. Like,
Yeah.
you could imprint a little bit on people now when they're a little bit younger if you can get them in earlier to just get them to understand the brand and then, buy into all the things we're talking about, the local thing, and just support the local. You're going to get this fresh. It's cool. Like, people want it. You're like, oh fuck, people are like, hard to get stuff. Like, yeah, there's a few different angles. Not everyone's hard to get, but there's different angles that you can bring people in with. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And then the final topic of today
yes,
that I actually wanted you
We're
to
actually
speak
been
to.
a little bit quicker. We've been good.
Look at us. Okay, another, the last one here is just email list building. That is such an underrated opportunity across multiple industries.
Yeah.
But, in the end, social media's rented space. Your email list is actually something that you own. So
No
there was
algorithm.
also this little Instagram Armageddon happening last year where a ton of accounts were just being, for no reason, no apparent reason at
Craft
all,
brewery accounts in Ontario.
craft brewery accounts being deactivated.
Yeah, suspended for
And
no reason.
when you think about that, like that is a terrifying place to be where if that is your only touch point to your customers, and that on top of an algorithm that can suppress your content for multiple reasons, or in the end, it's just sometimes your content might not be seen because you haven't optimized like the way we talked about. But in the end, having that email list is something that you own that gives you direct contact to your customers outside of any algorithm or anything like that. And if for some reason your social handles were deactivated, you'd still be able to connect with people. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about newsletters because I see you sitting and reading them in full and enjoying them. So
Big fan
Yeah.
of them. Yeah, email newsletters are definitely like a no-brainer. Like a sort of, if you don't have one, you're in trouble. I think in beer, because it's really the way to get directly in the inbox of the consumer with the newest stuff. I subscribe to so many, and I really love them. We're on the pod with Sarah Beth from Red Tape, and I was telling her about it, and literally the next day she sent one out.
I love that.
And
Awesome.
it was perfect. And
I
now
love
she
that.
keeps doing it. And
Yeah.
It's been very cool to see. I love reading them. I've been following a bunch. Bellwoods was the original one that I saw that I really enjoyed when Carmen was running
Oh,
the
I
ship.
remember you because you said there was really like fanciful and like
Just funny
like
and
story,
kind of like the way Adam writes.
funny stories
Just funny,
and like cool
silly,
stuff. Yeah.
quirky. Like,
Yeah.
I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah.
Shit. I'm like, this is just fun, and I get to know about what you're doing, and you
Yeah.
got this cool event, and maybe there's a bit of beer education in there, and whatever. So they've been really cool to watch, and I feel like a lot of them in town does really great. I like Third Moons because Chris does one every month with the lots of pros about all the different things that they've been doing. We went to this and we got this beer, and he's really good at describing things. And then now he added one in that's just to the point every week. Here are the 4 beers for the week. Boom, 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 bam, easy. Don't have to think about it. And then the end of every month or beginning, whichever it is the longer one. So it's just like a way of like letting people know all of those things we talked about, almost for your pillars, where it comes into like, you're doing events, you're doing beer drops. What do people need to know? How do they buy different things?
Yeah.
Some breweries do like Town and the Corporate Ladder in Florida we went to recently, just outside of Tampa. They do like every beer they drop, they'll send an e-newsletter about.
Nice.
Which is cool. Badlands is a great one too because he just does the weekly roundup, and it's usually
Beautiful.
between 2 and 4 beers for the most part. That explains everything and how you can get the merch and the different shipping options and the different pickup options, as well as got the blurb, which is always entertaining to read. True History's email is really good. They're actually kind of similar to the social posts where they're a little bit lengthy and
Love
quirky
it.
and say
Yeah.
just like funny, dumb shit, which is just so nice. You don't want to be too serious when you're writing them. So I just feel like they're just a way to connect with the customer on a different level. And if you can encourage them, they should be basically anytime I go to a brewery's website and I see a sign up form, I'll sign up. If
Love
they're
that.
a good brewery, I always do. It's like, I just want to see it. I
Yeah.
want to see what people are doing. And I never really I'm never mad at it. Fairweather's always doing the beer drops. So yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the other different ones that come to mind. Like most of them are pretty straightforward. They're nothing like too
Yeah, it doesn't
intense,
need to
just
take too much time.
tell me
or
what you
anything.
need. And,
yeah.
like Tiff was saying, like, you're not going to get blocked from anything. If you do get blocked, like all these breweries, Barrel Heart, Badlands,
Oh,
Beyond the
Collective, I
Pale.
see. Because
Yeah,
they had
Collective
something
ones
that's
is
just
good.
like story time, how ransack the
I
universe
enjoyed
found
that
its
one
name.
a lot. I didn't know
That's
it
cool.
was named after a thrift store that
Yeah.
they drove past on
That's
the way
cool.
to the beer launch.
Yeah.
And I love Ransack. It's a sick one. So I like that one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, Collective do a great job as well. So I would suggest, if you don't know where to start and you don't have an email newsletter, go and subscribe to all of your, just people in the industry, all the breweries around you in your area, in your city, in your state, province, whatever, just to see what they're doing. And you'll get them every week. And then you can be like, oh, okay. And then you better come up with your own style, whatever works for you, your brand,
Exactly.
your customers. What do they need to know? It's just more like, all this comes down to, you'll see the common theme of like reducing friction and giving people what they need to know
Exactly.
to give you money.
Exactly.
And then that's the part that people don't always, they're trying to give you money, bro. Like,
Make it
let
easy for
them
them.
make it easy to give you money. So many places had made it difficult for us to give them money on this 6.5 week trip that we went and spent it elsewhere at the place that made it easy for us to give them money. That told us when they were open, that gave us information on what was coming out and what events were going on. Hey, we're closed this day for a private event. Hey, food truck till then. I didn't have to fucking make a phone call or anything annoying. So it's just more like really thinking of what the customer wants. And once again, in this economy and all this crazy shit in the world, it's a bonkers time to be alive. Great time, weird time. But the availability of funds for people is limited for a lot more people, which is why we're seeing breweries closing. Obviously COVID fucked a lot of things up, and there's people in parks and food banks and all this stuff that we didn't really have before here in Canada. So it's kind of crazy. And if there are people who do want to spend, obviously every business needs every penny to come through the door, and it's not even being like greedy, it's just a matter of survival. Just think about what they need and make it easier for people to give you money, because there's probably a lot of breweries where people want to give them money, but they couldn't get the answer that they wanted, or that, fuck, I don't want to have to no one wants to make a phone call today, like, and including us. It's always annoying if I got to make a call. I'm like, fucking hell. Hey, have you got food? Like, and what time's the kitchen closed? Because I couldn't find it on your website, and stuff like that. You don't want to have any of those situations.
Yeah, because not everyone's going to try.
So email is I think one of the simplest ways to get all of the information across. It's almost like you could make the strategy, write the email newsletter every week, and then take what's going on there and then make sure it's distributed over social on the applicable days. Like the email newsletter, Barrel Hearts one is fantastic because it gives you the outlook for the week or the next 2 weeks.
Which they also do with their posts a lot of the time, so that's probably...
Barrel Heart are one of the best at it, too, as far as letting you know what
I love it. I always know what's going on. I'm always like, ooh, I could do Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday. Hey,
there's small things that just made us go. Yeah, we're like,
Waldron
exactly.
on April 4th or whatever it is.
April
See,
3rd.
I know the date, April 3rd.
Yeah.
See, we both, I fucked it up, but we still know it's in April.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the posts and the email newsletter so much and seen them talk about it. Like, it's just like, it's doable. And I know that there's some people who are juggling a lot of things and it's kind of difficult. Maybe this shit doesn't come naturally as well, which is completely acceptable. But just look at what the people around you are doing, and some of the ones that if you're in Ontario, you know who we're talking about. If you're not, just look at anyone around. There's always people doing it great wherever you're based, wherever you're listening from. But yeah, email newsletter is an absolutely mandatory. It's not a question. If you do not have one, our favorite is Flowdesk. I'll add it to the list. Yeah. We use this one called Flowdesk. It's so simple, bro. It's basically Canva. Add Flowdesk link. It's basically Canva we were talking about for people who can't design, and you can make it good. The templates in Flowdesk are so nice. They're so attractive. All the BAOS emails, if you're on that list, definitely sign up are through Flowdesk. And it just makes it so easy. And I just send them out once a month. I have a reminder, do a roundup of the pods, anything else that's coming up. There's going to be a lot more now because we're a lot more happening. But it's just super easy. And don't slip on that. Don't sleep on that. Sorry.
I love that. I thought that you said that nicely and wrapped that up very nicely.
Oh, that's
you
it?
You really emphasize email. You're an email marketer for sure.
Thank you so much.
No, and I think part of that too is just incentivizing people to sign up to your newsletter. If you're wondering how will I get people to sign up, obviously you got to talk about it. Maybe some giveaways, maybe some beer drops, maybe 10% off when their next case, things like that. All that.
A lot of them do welcome 10 and you get 10% off your next online order.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people do that.
Exactly.
Things like that, particularly if you're selling and maybe here in Canada, hopefully everything goes the way that there's a lot of chatter about removing a lot of the trade barriers throughout the provinces. So maybe breweries in BC will be able to ship to Nova Scotia to individual consumers. So email marketing is going to be a way that, now that people's, if that's what happens, which I really hope so, it's going to open up a lot, and it's going to open up a lot of opportunity, a lot of competition, but a lot of opportunity. So if you're able to just make it as easy as you can for consumers to want to buy from you, and there's a lot of things coming up that's hopefully going to be a net positive for the beer industry.
Agreed. And if you're, this is not online, so this is why we're not talking about it as much, but I do think there's a lot of opportunities and cute things that I noticed in the U.S. that they were doing, and I think batch brewing is a really good example of like how to use online and offline activations to really drive people. Dave Seacott, shout out Dave, is doing a phenomenal job over there, and I think especially with the offline stuff, like I thought that's because that's not our arena, that's not what we focus on.
No, we're strictly.
But I love where I'm like, I want to go to that event. Yeah, I'd want to do these
They
things.
all sound awesome.
They always just sound really great. So I just think even
food
that's just a good inspo. So just want to leave like things of inspiration too, because you're mentioning accounts to follow or look at, and I think they're a really good example of like activating in multiple areas on that side too. Yeah,
definitely. That's kind of what I think we're a little more concise in this pod.
Yes.
Even though we're similar-ish to the time frame, I think we're definitely better.
Yeah, how is it similar when we were rambling for so long?
I feel like we were not rambling this time. Maybe I feel like our stories went on tangents last time way too much. It was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really what we were trying to get across.
Yeah.
We wanted, because this is more like an actionable pod with like we said,
that's the goal, is to keep it more actionable.
Yeah. So all of that to say, hopefully all of this was pretty. So I feel like this pretty well encapsulated what we did at the OCB, but also just I felt like, and there's a few extra things, obviously the tariff stuff, and we didn't really talk about Gen Z or anything like that there, but like all of those things just to like put a few sort of ideas out there. And I feel like there's not really enough people talking about marketing in craft beer. I know there's a lot of pods that talk about the brewing of beer, because breweries tell me I heard this pod where these dudes were talking about they add the yeast at this time or whatever. So I feel like that's sick, but I don't know how many people are talking about marketing in this sort of way specifically towards craft breweries wherever you're located. So that's really what we're aiming to do with this, and hopefully that was helpful. I'll once again lots of resources in the bio, so I'm going to have all the basically everything I mentioned here, including the high season YouTube channel, different videos, the code to download the free content calendar template just for people who listen and watch the pod. Magic, the Chat GPT guide, ManyChat, Flowdesk, so all that different stuff. Basically, a whole bunch of actionable resources that you can use, you can sign up to, and use them to make your life a lot easier. Particularly if you're looking for a tool. Maybe you've got a tool and you might be looking for an alternative tool. I would say just take a peek at them and see what happens. We've been using these for all of our projects, and it works quite well. Yeah. So we're just passing on the things that we think are great. But any questions, always you can message us at BAOS Podcast at High Season Co. Anything else?
No, that's great.
We did it.
Loved having the chat. We did it.
Yeah, this is good.
Hopefully it's...
Oh, no, I'm so worried. There's a couple little tech things, but I mean, it worked the last time when we did a test, so fingers crossed. That,
I'm not doing it a third time.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's not, then fucking that's it. Tiffany, I'll just do the usual outro. No need to anything else you want to send anybody.
Where you can find me online?
Yeah.
At High Season Co.
That's right.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Wonderful. Guys, thank you. And thank you for doing this again.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Fucking hell.
Let's go have some steak.
Yes. Guys, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe, or hit that notification bell.
Ding.
So you know when the new to us. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast, of course, at High Season Co. Check out the Long Form Audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. If you can give us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we're talking about reviews and all this stuff, particularly just traveling. We were using
so
reviews.
review-driven,
Very much so, and it paid off every single time.
Sure.
Hotels, restaurants, brewery, not really breweries so much, but anything else, cafes, if anything had real bad, we're like, and you didn't go. So if you can, hit us with a little 5e, that'd be a banger. Pray to the internet gods that this one worked, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Make sure to listen to episode 11. Episode 11 is a big announcement.
Huge announcement.
The biggest thing we've ever done. Terrified, but let's fucking go.
Awesome.
All right,
LFG.
LFG. See you
Bye.
in the next one. Peace.